wake up, Inuk wake up.
So it touched so many people. We received such a positive feedback from all around the world.
And this is the middeck. If you want to try,
Yeah?
you're
What is
welcome. It's a whale.
Penny and Sebastian have given us some rye bread and then white whale cut up into some pieces. Yeah, this is a Greenlandic delicacy, so...
And this is the blubber, like in between.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Like, why do you cut it up like that? Is it just to...
It's very hard to chew.
Ah, okay, because it's raw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the blubber is very hard to chew, and you need to cut it like this so it's easier for you to chew. I will give you a small one because it might be potent.
It's so tasty. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's really salty. I'm not used to the consistency, but it's really good.
Yeah.
To round off the evening, Penny and Sebastian are going to introduce me to a traditional Inuit game. They're moving their chairs so they can face each other, and I suspect I might be about to watch and hear something I've never experienced before.
It's an Inuit game,
Okay.
and you try not to laugh. Repeat each other.
Oh, so it's like a challenge, and the one who laughs first is the one who loses.
We call it Gadachak.
Get that check?
Yeah.
But it's still a musical thing.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get a demonstration. I'm intrigued. I'm not sure who won. That was intense.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd be able to win that game, but it's impressive. Penny and Sebastian and Akka, who we heard from at the start of the program, are proud Greenlanders who are passionate about preserving their identity in a changing world. Most of the people we've spoken to on the island aspire to be independent at some point in the future. But fishing alone is not going to generate enough income for that, and tourism, although growing, is likely to remain niched by global standards. So I've come to meet one of Greenland's most high-profile politicians to see what her vision of the future is.
My name is Naja Nathanielsen, or Nathanielsen. I'm a minister in the Greenlandic government, and my portfolio stretches from business to gender equality and justice. It's been a hectic year, absolutely, with an increased focus on Greenland, especially maybe when it comes to our natural resources. And of course, the new increased interest from the American administration also adds to this.
I want to talk a bit about mining. There are currently only 2 active mines in Greenland despite its size and mineral wealth. Why is that?
We have several projects moving forward towards mining. So for me, it's really a success story. You shouldn't go into the mineral sector because you like quick wins. It's a slow business, and it takes an average 10 years to develop a mine. In Greenland, we do insist on doing things with a high ESG standard, that is environment, government, and social standard, and that adds to the bill. And that means that making profit in Greenland is probably more difficult than many other jurisdictions, but we won't really lower our standards. Everybody wants development, but nobody wants mining. But if you want your iPhones and you want your green transition, you also need minerals. So if the Western world wants a green transition, they cannot get it, as I see it, on a discount.
How many more mines would you like to see in the near future?
We might have 5 mines within the next 5 to 10 years. We cannot say we want 10 mines or 20 mines, because then it would mean that we would lose contact and control with the development.
Would you like to see Greenland independent, and if so, over what time frame?
I'm not going to put a time frame. For me, independence is both a state of mind. It's also, of course, being able to have a full say in your own decisions. I think very few politicians in the rest of the world would say that they would appreciate a status where they have to ask somebody else's foreign minister to make a statement. But if you ask if I'm ready to declare full-on autonomy from tomorrow, no, because I have an obligation to the population of Greenland, and we don't have a self-sufficient economy yet.
You were quoted on American radio saying that the U.S. had been a bad ally. Do you think having Denmark looking after your defense interests may not look so bad after all?
I think a good ally treats their partners with. I think talk about annexation, control and ownership is disrespectful. I think it's a bad way to move forward. At the time, I also stated that I understand that Greenland is part of the American national security interest. The fact that we are small is not a reason, I think, to disregard our wishes and wants for the future. We are still a people. We still have a right to decide what our place is in the world. And we are Inuit. This has been a question that I think has grappled many American administrations and Danish as well, what to do with Greenland. But we insist on having our own say in this.
The next few years are going to be fascinating as this island tries to pick its path between development and conservation, reclaiming its Inuit past but also attempting to embrace a global future. This edition of Assignment was presented by me, Hedi Namin Aziz. The producer was Bob Howard.
That was Assignment from the BBC. I'm Saroja Coelho, and this is CBC Radio 1. Have a great day.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We are live downtown on a day with another air quality advisory for much of the province, a heat warning as well for parts of northern Manitoba. And here in Winnipeg, we're going to have widespread smoke, a high of 26, and with humidex 29. Information Radio is your morning show on CBC, and we are here with you till 8:37 a.m. Let's say good morning to the team. Sierra Sanders, good morning. Sierra directs the show, does about 50 million jobs that come with that. And also you'll hear her on the air covering your commute, which right now is looking pretty decent. Also, Mr. Abby Adiemi. Abby has 4.5 jobs. Abby's our senior tech and also will be on the air covering your forecasts. Good morning, Abby. And Azika Abzelatif is here this morning, also wearing a bunch of hats, but the big one is producing our YouTube live stream of the show. So say hello there if you are watching the show on YouTube, and we hope you might be. All right, lots of developing news. Let's go locally to our news center here in Manitoba. Heather Wells has the morning headlines today at 2 minutes to 6 o'clock. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. Well, the government of Canada plans to recognize Palestine as a state. We're going to hear more on that and reaction to it coming up on World Report. In Winnipeg, Ramsey Zeed at the Canadian Palestinian Association of Manitoba says his community's been waiting to hear this for years. He says they couldn't ask for anything more. A war monument that stood at Portage in Maine is still going to be relocated, even though some posts on social media suggest otherwise. The Manitoba Métis Federation says the plan all along is to have the statue prominently displayed in a cemetery. The MMF's Kat Patenaude says the relocation will happen in the fall, but some question that on social media after a photo appeared to show the monument outdoors beside garbage. We'll hear more coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
All right. Thanks, Heather.
Thanks.
We, in addition to what Heather mentioned, are also going to be digging in this morning to the reaction to Prime Minister Mark Carney announcing Canada will recognize a Palestinian state in September if conditions are met. So we'll have coverage of that. Also, if you're an avid gardener, in the first hour of the show, we're going to talk about the plant hardiness zone map. It's changing because of the climate changing. So should we be thinking about growing BC-type fruit in Manitoba in the future? Well, maybe. And we have a follow to a story yesterday about a mother who was concerned her 5-year-old who was diagnosed with ADHD was told he couldn't come back to school.
Today on Q.
I'm Garvey Bailey, sitting in for Tom Power.
Abraham Rubin is a rock star in the art world.
Inuk artist Abraham Onyek Rubin is one of our country's greatest sculptors. He'll be here to talk about his new exhibit in Winnipeg and how he uses his work to tell the story of his people.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Marcia Young.
U.S. President Donald Trump says he is not happy with Canada's plan to recognize Palestinian statehood, and it could make it more difficult for Canada and the U.S. to reach a trade deal. Canada has until tomorrow to negotiate an agreement, or the U.S. will impose a 35% tariff on all non-CUSMA goods. Let's bring in Janice McGregor from our Washington bureau. And Janice, is this decision to recognize a Palestinian state really what is standing in the way of a trade deal?
Well, let's note right out the gate, Marcia, that European countries, notably France, also the UK, they were out ahead of Canada on Palestinian recognition. And yet Trump hasn't chucked deals reached with them over this issue. Instead, it appears to be his latest play to crank up new kinds of tension and isolate Canada, which, remember, remains the only major trading partner apart from China that has retaliated. It all whiffs of another attempt to negotiate in public, cajole, intimidate, bully. Just yesterday afternoon, Trump was out destabilizing Canada's economic harm calculations by piling on new national security tariffs on copper, changing de minimis rules for the customs duties that are payable on small incoming packages.
There are legal efforts to stop these U.S. tariffs, including a case being heard today at a U.S. federal appeals court. Walk us through the arguments.
There are some Americans who understand their president is massively overstepping his office in his trade strategy. Tariff taxation should fall under the authority of the House. International treaty making is the Senate's job. Congressional authority is undermined when the man at the top rules arbitrarily. 8 court cases so far have been launched to stop this. 2 have now reached the Federal Circuit Court appeal stage, with arguments starting this morning in D.C. Here's the plaintiff in one of them, David Levi. He runs a small business in Charlottesville, Virginia, that makes science kits for kids. But most of the parts for those kits are imported.
It's just very hard to plan a business when the tariffs can change in a few weeks, and it takes months for parts to come in, and it takes a year or more to design a new product, set up the supply chain, and get everything dialed in.
Trump, the businessman, is somehow deaf to these arguments from his own citizens about what tariffs do to their livelihoods. We'll see if the courts and the Constitution can stop what economic arguments, so far anyway, haven't.
Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
Janice McGregor reporting from Washington. South Korea's new trade deal with the United States is proving to be unpopular. Dozens of people are protesting near the U.S. Embassy in Seoul. They say they don't think a 15% tariff.
Brianna Williams hopped on a boat towards Peachland to help put out a fire burning just a few kilometers from the Okanagan city, as she's done in the past.
I was in West Kelowna in 2023, Karamias, and a few other places.
Ground crews, air tankers, and helicopters were all dispatched to fight the current Drought Hill wildfire, which grew 5 times in size within hours. Taylor Coleman is with the BC Wildfire Service.
Thankfully, the air tankers and skimmers that are responding have really helped cool fire behavior and slow the spread.
People living in about 400 properties were ordered to flee their homes yesterday afternoon, among them Rene DeWaron and his family.
Got packed up. Started watering the house, watering, surrounding bushes, stuff like that, trying to help knock it down if it comes as close as, we could potentially see.
Hundreds more properties were put on evacuation alert last night, with people being told to be prepared to leave at a moment's notice if needed. Evacuation centers have been set up in Peachland and West Kelowna. The cause of the fire is still under investigation, but videos show a truck burning along the side of a nearby highway. Yasmin Ranea, CBC News, Vancouver.
Environment Canada is warning wildfire smoke is spreading across much of the country today. There are air quality warnings for Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Western Ontario, and the prairie smoke could blow even farther east to Toronto, Ottawa, and parts of southern Quebec. The CBC News Climate Dashboard is your place for live updates on wildfire smoke, active fires, and air quality. Go to cbc.ca/climate to check it out. Ukraine's parliament is restoring independence to 2 anti-corruption agencies. It is a reversal of a law that was approved just last week. It reduced the power of anti-corruption watchdogs and drew public backlash. It's not normal for Ukrainians to protest while their country is at war, but overnight, protesters rallied near the parliament buildings. They urged politicians to restore watchdog independence, and it seems they were heard. Today's vote comes as Kiev residents recover from an overnight airstrike focused on the capital. At least 8 people died and more than 80 were injured. Crystal Gomansing has the latest.
Standing in front of a smoldering high-rise, Ukrainian Interior Minister Ihor Klimenko says the building was directly hit by a missile. In the search for the dead and missing, rescue teams managed to locate one individual in the rubble. We had just come back to the apartment, back from the bomb shelter, says this resident. The air raid alert had just been cancelled. And then we were doomed. Kyiv was the main location targeted overnight and into this morning. Ukraine's Air Force says the Russian attack consisted of more than 300 drones and 8 cruise missiles.
Hello, everybody.
The attacks are the first since U.S. President Donald Trump said Tuesday he was shortening the ultimatum timeline on Russia from 50 to 10 days. The threat of sanctions, a new move by the U.S. president who has grown increasingly frustrated with Russia over its unwillingness to end the war. In the Ukrainian capital, more air raid sirens blared Thursday morning, and crews probed the ruins of homes. Crystal Gomansing, CBC News, London.
A flight attendant is suing Delta Airlines over that fiery plane crash at Toronto's Pearson Airport in February. The plaintiff says she was severely injured in the incident, and she blames her employer for allegedly cutting corners and assigning an inexperienced pilot. The CBC's Thomas Daigle has our exclusive story.
Oh my God!
After the passenger jet flipped upside down and skidded across the runway, flight attendants scrambled to rush everyone out.
Come on!
One flight attendant who was on that plane but off duty is now suing Delta Airlines and its subsidiary Endeavour Air, alleging they knowingly placed profits over safety, leading to that hard landing that sent 21 people to hospital.
This plane was going in way too fast. That makes them negligent.
Michael Morse is a Michigan-based lawyer working with the plaintiff Vanessa Miles, who filed the lawsuit this week in U.S. federal court.
She was dangling upside down after the crash, soaked in fuel.
The woman says she suffered a broken shoulder and a traumatic brain injury. Her case is one of at least 19 such lawsuits filed against the airlines in connection with the Toronto incident last February. Keith Mackey is a flight safety expert.
In this case, we had a very high rate of descent, which actually snapped the landing gear off the airplane. It's a very unusual circumstance.
Delta hasn't yet responded to the new lawsuit, but says its flight crew was qualified and certified. The Transportation Safety Board is expected next year to release a full report into what went wrong. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Toronto.
You are gonna come to me, but you better choose carefully.
You are listening to part of Katy Perry's performance last night in Montreal, and you will never guess who was in the crowd. Okay, you might. Justin Trudeau was there, and it looks like he brought his daughter Ella Grace. It's more grist for the rumor mill that's been in overdrive this week ever since the former prime minister was seen dining with the newly single pop star. That's World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Yeah, a lot of people Googling Justin Trudeau and Katy Perry yesterday, I'll tell you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us on Information Radio, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. We are live in downtown Winnipeg, and we once again have air quality issues. In Winnipeg today, but not as severe as yesterday. We do have them, though, extending over most of Manitoba today. We also have a heat warning, so Abby will tell us a bit about that in a moment on this last day of July. This hour on the program, we're going to hear more about Mark Carney. Yesterday, the Prime Minister announcing Canada will recognize a Palestinian state in September if certain conditions are met. You've been hearing that in the the news this morning. We're going to hear reaction from the Canadian Palestinian Association of Manitoba. In addition, we'll have a closer look at the plant hardiness zones map to see how Canada's changing climate might affect what can be grown across the country. Could you be planting more BC-like fruit trees here? It's possible. We're going to hear why, and that is coming up in this hour as well. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells, and then in a moment we're going to take you somewhere very exciting. But first, here's Heather Wells with some local headlines.
Good morning. Well, a recent string of alleged extortions has business owners and workers in Winnipeg fearing for their safety. Some say they're being threatened with arson and violence if they don't hand over money. Someone broke into Jay Delaney's family business earlier this month, throwing a Molotov cocktail inside Theta's Thai restaurant. 2 weeks later, their other business also was set on fire. Delaney says he's heard from about 10 other businesses who say they too are being threatened. Road signs saying Bubba sucks at fishing have been cropping up outside Morden in the past year.
It's much easier to smile and laugh about it than it is to be upset about it.
Yeah, exactly. Steve Bubba Peters is the target of the running jokes, although he's not sure which of his friends is responsible. But he's using his new notoriety to help others. We'll hear how coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
Well, Bubba might suck at fishing, but Summer doesn't suck at swimming.
No, I know, another gold.
In the battle for silver, Smith and Deckers, but look at McIntosh go. Will it be a world record? Perhaps not now, but it's going to be gold medal number 3. It's going to be close. McIntosh takes it out in a championship record. Another gold to her, silver to Smith.
So this is just moments ago carried live on CBC. Summer McIntosh in the pool, winning the 200-meter butterfly at the World Aquatic Championships ongoing in Singapore. And just in case you had a hard time making out those CBC commentators there, this is the third gold for Summer McIntosh of Canada. And we'll hear more analysis coming up on sports in the next hour of the show. I went right to that clip and neglected to thank Heather for headlines. Thank you, Heather. We're going to hear more from her. There she is. She's back at 6:30 with more news. Let's go to Abby right now to find out about the weather. Abby Adiemi in this morning. Morning.
Good morning, Marcy. A new player just got unlocked this morning. We've been talking about smoke for like days, but now the heat is returning to Manitoba. We have heat warnings in effect for parts of central Manitoba, spreading all the way into the northern part of the province this morning. We're talking about areas around the Flin Flon, the Pod, near even Lynn Lake, towards Churchill. We're going to be seeing daytime highs, not even the humidity, just the highs would be close to 29-30 degrees, and then evenings will even be warmer in most of these areas for the next couple of days. This is what we'll see. At the same time now, we have air quality warnings across much of the province and still much of southern Manitoba this morning, which includes Winnipeg. Also, we're going to be seeing poor air quality and low visibilities in affected regions, which means the air can really shift quickly. This smoke will be shifting quickly throughout the day as the wind direction would be changing. So please avoid outdoor activities if you feel unwell or the smoke really affecting you. Winnipeg at this time, we're seeing 16-17 degrees with smoky skies, and this would stretch all across the region today. Just expect that condition. We'll see our highs close to 24-25 today. Hazy skies and light winds, and that's the condition across most of the regions down south. Up north, we're seeing 8 to 16 degrees. Smoke and heat would be in play today.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Sierra Sanders is now coming to the studio just to get us started with the traffic situation. Hi.
Good morning. Well, it is a slow morning, Thursday morning. Some people might be on holidays already. Some people might be getting ready for the extra long weekend. Who knows? It's been pretty quiet on the commuter line this week when I kind of reflect on the week that we've had so far. But you never know. Today might heat up just like the traffic might heat up, just like the weather will be. I don't know. But if that's the case and there's something going on out there that you're seeing or something that's slowing you down, or you want to talk about something good, I don't know. I'm here for anything at this point. You can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number is 204-788-3093.
6:15 the time right now, and let's get some local reaction to Prime Minister Mark Carney. Prime Minister Mark Carney has said, as you've been hearing in the news, that Canada will recognize a Palestinian state in September if certain conditions are met. Now, before we get to that local reaction, once again, here is a bit more of what the Prime Minister had to say yesterday afternoon.
Canada has long been committed to a two-state solution, an independent, viable and sovereign Palestinian state living side by side with the state of Israel in peace and security. For decades, it was hoped that this outcome would be achieved as part of a peace process built around a negotiated settlement between the Israeli government and the Palestinian Authority. Regrettably, this approach is no longer tenable. Prospects for a two-state solution have been steadily and gravely eroded, including by the pervasive threat of Hamas terrorism to Israel and its people, culminating in the heinous attack of October 7, 2023, and the terrorist organization Hamas's long-standing violent rejection of Israel's right to exist and its rejection of a two-state solution. The accelerated settlement building across the West Bank and East Jerusalem, all the while settler violence against Palestinians has soared, has also undermined the process, as have actions such as the E1 settlement plan and this month's vote by the Knesset calling for the annexation of the West Bank, and the ongoing failure of the Israeli government to prevent the rapidly deteriorating humanitarian disaster in Gaza, with impeded access to food and other essential humanitarian supplies. The deepening suffering of civilians leaves no room for delay in coordinated international action to support peace, security, and the dignity of human life. Preserving a two-state solution means standing with all people who choose peace over violence or terrorism, and it means honoring their innate desire for peaceful coexistence of Israeli and Palestinian states as the only roadmap for a secure and prosperous long-term future. Canada intends to recognize the state of Palestine at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September 2025. This intention is predicated on the Palestinian Authority's commitment to much-needed reforms, including commitments by the Palestinian Authority's President Abbas to fundamentally reform its governance, to hold general elections in 2026 in which Hamas can play no part, and to demilitarize the Palestinian state. Canada will increase its efforts in supporting strong democratic governance in Palestine and the contributions of its people to a more peaceful and hopeful future.
So that is Prime Minister Mark Carney speaking yesterday afternoon. Well, for local reaction, Ramsey Zeid is president of the Canadian Palestinian Association of Manitoba. He had a conversation with CBC's Laurie Hoogstraat on Up to Speed.
Tell me, what was your reaction when you heard the news?
Honestly, I had to read it 3 times before I kind of realized that it was actually something that was happening. This is something that we've been asking for years, and you know we're finally almost there. So this is amazing news. I couldn't have asked for anything more.
And what will having a Palestinian state recognized by Canada mean to you?
This is something that having a Palestinian state recognized by Canada means that Canada recognizes the Palestinian people as a people. They recognize that the Palestinians actually have a country, that they've always been there. That that land was always Palestine, and we've always been there. So the recognition of a Palestinian state, legitimizes what we've been working for and we've been fighting for years.
And what do you think about the conditions Prime Minister Carney included, for example, holding an election and other democratic reforms?
I mean, holding an election is something that every country should have. So, I mean, that's something that I don't think any Palestinian person will go against. We've had elections before, and we'll have elections again. This is nothing new, and we're all for that.
The Embassy of Israel in Canada has released a statement rejecting Canada's endorsement of a Palestinian state. They say, and I quote, "Israel will not bow to the distorted campaign of international pressure against it. We will not sacrifice our very existence by permitting the imposition of a jihadist state on our ancestral homeland that seeks our annihilation." End of quote. What is your reaction to that statement?
I mean, they can say whatever they want. They say that they're a democratic state, yet you've got millions of people there that are unaccounted for, that don't have any rights, that don't have any voting rights. The Palestinian people aren't represented properly. So until they actually follow international law, and until they actually, start giving the Palestinian people equal rights, just like anybody else living there, what they say really doesn't matter.
Tell me, this is something you've been pushing for years, as you've said. And now that it's happening, do you have plans to celebrate or mark the occasion in some way?
Absolutely. We've been trying for years to have the Palestinian flag raised at City Hall, at the legislative building, on different occasions. And we've always got turned down, and the reason was, we can't raise the Palestinian flag because it's not recognized by the federal government. Well, now it's recognized by the federal government, and we're going to raise that flag high. It's going to be a proud, proud day.
Ramsey Zeid in conversation there with CBC's Laurie Hoogstraat, not up to speed yesterday. Zeid is the president of the Canadian Palestinian Association here in Manitoba. CBC also reached out to multiple people in Winnipeg's Israeli community for comment, and we expect more reaction as the day develops.
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. It's news you can trust, delivered when you want and where you want on Canada's News app. Now with CBC Radio 1, local and live. Download the CBC News app for free.
6:22 a.m. on 89.3 FM, 9:90 a.m. on the app and YouTube. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thank you for joining our team here this morning. 15 degrees, smoky in Winnipeg, 7 and clear in Brandon, 7 and smoky up in Thompson. And today in Winnipeg, we'll head for a high of 26 degrees. Well, next on the show, you might not think of where we live, Canada, when you think of growing citrus fruit or palm trees, especially here in the prairies, but some of that might be changing. Every 10 years, the federal government updates a national map of plant hardiness zones. It gives us kind of insight. It gives growers insight about what can survive and maybe what new crops to try. So to learn more about what the latest map says, Joshua Naselski is with us. He's an assistant professor of agronomy at the University of Guelph. Good morning to you.
Morning, Marcy.
I love that you're here via Zoom, and I have to just get this right out of the way because our show is also carried on a YouTube stream. It's not your birthday today, but there's birthday banners right behind your head. Who do we say happy birthday to on CBC this morning?
My 4-year-old Joelle.
Oh, I love that. I love that. All right. I don't know if Joelle likes plants or not, but I sure do. Tell us a bit more about the basics. When we talk about this map, how does it actually work?
Right. So this plant hardiness zone map, it's basically like a postal code for plants. Every part of Canada gets assigned a number from 0 to 10. And as you go up in the numbers, the winters become milder, the growing season becomes longer, or the frost-free period becomes longer. There's some other things that plant hardiness zone like incorporates or uses, like wind speed, for example. But generally, the higher that number, higher the plant hardiness zone, the warmer your winters, the longer your frost-free period.
What's the number usually in Manitoba, or does it look at prairies overall as a region?
So let me get a look here. I have the map right in front of me, and it is going to be in Manitoba, where you guys are. You're about a 3 to 4. The further north you get, you might get into the ones actually.
Got it.
So yeah, Manitoba, north to south, it changes quite a bit.
So I was asking because this plant hardiness map, it would be the same measurement. Then I like to garden a little bit, like just a little bit. I don't want to overstate this, but I do know that, in Winnipeg, when I'm planting and I'm looking at the tags, we're zone 3. So it does use the same zone as most, places might go. With the update, what's changed? Obviously, we're still zone 3, but what's changed across the country? What are the shifts?
So in the most recent update, just using the 10 most recent years of weather data, putting that into the model that they use, about 20% of the country, including parts of Manitoba, have had an increase in their zone. So they went about half a zone higher. 20%, so not the whole country. Most of it stayed the same. And hardness zone, they were zoned for. But about 20% of the country, we saw an increase. So things are getting warmer, winters are getting milder.
You just frozen there for a moment. It just froze when you said, so things are getting milder and winters are getting warmer.
It's about 1 or 2% of the country saw a cooling, actually. So they went down a plant hardness zone.
Where did the where you said Manitoba went up about half in terms of, I guess we're not zone 4 yet, maybe fully, but maybe a 3.5. Where did it go? We just you came back in, you cut in and out. You came back in saying that some of the country went down. Where were those regions?
Further to the north, so just kind of parts of northern Manitoba seem to have some cooling. Same with northern Ontario. Just it got about half a degree, half a zone cooler. I'm not 100% sure why, but it's more to state that with climate change, you can have multiple things happening at the same time, which is just adds this bunch of the uncertainty.
How might the changes then impact agriculture or gardening?
Yeah, so you said you're a gardener yourself. You've probably noticed things are probably getting warmer. The winters are not as harsh on average, and then when you expect a fall frosts are happening later. The spring frosts aren't happening or happening earlier, the last spring frost. So I think people are taking advantage of that. Gardeners might be growing, like, for example, maybe an olive tree or a lemon tree. You have to bring it inside over winter, but now you can just start experimenting and having fun with, things are warmer. I was planting hot peppers, and I was harvesting hot peppers into November. I'm in Guelph, which, again, unheard of to be harvesting hot peppers in November, probably 30 or 40 years ago. But on a more serious note, in terms of agriculture, the agricultural industry, farmers, horticulturalists are adapting, they're innovating, and I think I see them taking advantage of this longer growing season.
What does this mean for pests?
Great question. So what does it mean? It means that we are 100% seeing new diseases, new insects, new to us, coming up from the south that we never experienced before, things like western bean cutworm, things like tar spot, which is a fungal disease, coming up from the south for the first time ever. And we have early warning networks to kind of monitor because we anticipate these changes, right? Because you can kind of read the tea leaves, so to speak, and say, hey, things are getting warmer, and now that the borders are shifting in terms of where these pests normally are. So far, the industry has been able to adapt and manage because we can rely on the experience, the knowledge of colleagues further south who have been dealing with these pests already. But that's not to say that that's going to be the same in the future as the climate continues to warm in Canada.
Well, and what do you think this might mean for those that are developing new crops? You kind of alluded to this, but there's even at this stage of those who are trying to introduce new plants or hybrid species and such. Are we seeing a lot of activity in the agricultural sector because of that?
Oh, 100%. That's a great question. It's not just the climate's changing. It's that plant breeders or breeding companies that sell seed and develop new varieties, they're innovating too. So it's getting warmer, but also for example, the peaches or apples are becoming hardier. They're being bred for more cold tolerance, as an example. So the breeding companies are doing a fantastic job of allowing gardeners to grow further and further north. It's the climate warming, but it's also the improved varieties that we have access to now.
So some bright spots in this news, and then some concerns as well, and obviously the bigger picture concern over climate change. Thanks for telling us about the map. If somebody wants to look at it for themselves, where should they go, Joshua?
You know what? I hate to say this to my students. I hate to say this to the audience, but you can Google it. Yep. You just go to Natural Resources Canada Plant Hardness Zone Map. There's a website you can enter. You can just look at a map and see where you are on that zone, and very easy to do.
Well, don't hate to say it. It's worse if you say you can't find it anywhere, Marcy. If they can find it, that's great. And appreciate the time. Enjoy your day. Thank you.
Thanks, Marcy. Bye.
So we're interested in hearing if you're growing something new here in Manitoba or how this has played out in your own yard or maybe in your own field. You can always call us, 788-3205. Joshua Naselski with us, Assistant Professor of Agronomy at the University of Guelph. Your CBC Winnipeg News is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it's 15 degrees. We're going to be smoky again on this last day of July and seasonal. A high today of 26. The humidex is going to feel like 29. A recent string of alleged extortions has business owners and workers in Winnipeg fearing for their safety. Some say they are being threatened with arson and violence if they don't hand over money. As CBC's Rosanna Hempel explains, one man believes one group is behind the criminal scheme.
In early July, someone broke into Jay Delaney's family business, Tita's Thai restaurant, and threw a Molotov cocktail inside. 2 weeks later, their other business, Maisuni Thai Cuisine, was also set on fire. It was so badly damaged it'll be closed for months. Delaney's heard from about 10 other businesses who say they're being threatened with arson and violence if they don't pay up. One convenience store owner told us he believes the same group of men is behind the threats. He says he's been getting calls and texts for weeks from people demanding money. Delaney feels the police response has been slow.
Everything's captured, which is why I'm really in shock that, why haven't the police made any arrests yet?
Winnipeg police say they can't speak to any connections between the incidents because the investigations are ongoing. They urge anyone being threatened to come forward to police. In the meantime, some of the targets have left the city as they no longer feel safe. Rosanna Hempel, CBC News, Winnipeg.
There is a new complication in trade talks between Canada and the U.S. President Donald Trump is lashing out at Canada for supporting a Palestinian state. Late yesterday, Prime Minister Mark Carney made this announcement.
Canada intends to recognize the state of Palestine at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September.
In a post overnight on his Truth Social site, President Trump said Canada has announced it's backing statehood for Palestine. That will make it very hard for us to make a trade deal with them. Oh, Canada. Now, Ramsey Zeid at the Canadian Palestinian Association of Manitoba says his community's been waiting to hear this for a long time.
The recognition of a Palestinian state, legitimizes what we've been working for and what we've been fighting for years.
Israel's foreign ministry says its government rejects Canada's move. You can hear the latest on this story coming up on World Report at 7. A new survey suggests Manitoba has a long way to go if it really wants to be the Costco of critical minerals. The conservative Fraser Institute says this province now ranks 26th among jurisdictions around the world as an attractive place to invest in mining. That is down from 6th 1 year ago. The Minister for Mining in Manitoba doesn't agree the province has become less attractive to the mining industry. Jamie Moses points to the Alamos Gold open pit mines under construction near Lynn Lake.
We have actually done more than the previous governments have. We've opened up a new generational gold mine in the province. That's something the previous government couldn't say.
The Alamos Gold Project got underway when the previous PC government was in power. Construction started this year and is slated to be complete in 2028. The Manitoba Métis Federation says a monument to World War I soldiers will be displayed prominently once again, something that appears to be at odds with a photo circulating on social media. It seems to show the monument at an outdoor property beside garbage. The MMF says the statue isn't in a junkyard like it may seem, but a storage facility. The MMF's Kate Patenaude says the statue is usually wrapped in protective coverings, but not in the photo.
We understand it was temporarily unwrapped as part of an exercise within that storage facility just to move things around and make sure that it continued to be secure.
The statue stood at Portage in Maine for more than a century, but was moved last year because of construction. It is scheduled to be relocated this fall to the Field of Honor at Brookside Cemetery. Road signs saying Bubba sucks at fishing have been cropping up outside Morden over the past year. Steve Bubba Peters is the target of the running joke, although he isn't sure which of his friends is responsible.
My dad told me years ago, the easiest person to make fun of is yourself. if you can't laugh at yourself, like, you're missing out on life. So, I mean, there's a lot of things I could be upset about, and I could be like, why me? This isn't fair. You know, it's much easier to smile and laugh about it than it is to be upset about it.
Peters is now using this new notoriety to raise funds on social media, and by selling Bubba Sucks t-shirts, he spent that money and some of his own on free fishing gear for local kids and plans to hand out more rods and reels at the Winkler Harvest Festival next weekend. And Canada's Summer McIntosh has claimed her third gold medal of the World Swimming Championships.
It's going to be close. McIntosh takes it out in a championship record. Another gold to her.
The 18-year-old from Toronto winning the world's 200-meter butterfly just less than an hour ago in a meet record of 2 minutes, 1.99 seconds, just shy of the world record of 2 minutes, 1 second, 0.81. McIntosh also won the 200-meter freestyle and 400-meter individual medley earlier in the meet. You can find more news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba. I'm not good at dissecting seconds.
It's hard to say on the radio. She's so good.
Amazing. And disappointed that she didn't crack that world record.
Yeah, it's funny, right? You see her do all these amazing things and you kind of take a moment and go, why doesn't she look more elated? And then you're like, okay, she's chasing everything all the time. She's only chasing herself. Really.
She's got a big goal.
I got to talk about Bubba Sucks at Fishing. So you started the sentence and said, with the money that Bubba's getting from these t-shirts he's selling, I thought you were going to say he's buying fish.
So he can say, post a photo of him with a big fish.
But no, he's giving back to kids. That story actually made As It Happens last night. Those quirky little stories often do. So he was nationally on CBC, which is really cool because it's all ended up for good causes.
Yeah, he's got a great attitude.
Yeah.
Fun friends.
What's that?
Fun friends.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you even imagine, though, first time you would see that? So if you want to read more about that story, you can go to our website a little bit later today, cbc.ca/Manitoba. And Heather, of course, will have some more versions of that in the news as well. Fun stuff. It's 23 minutes to 7 o'clock. It is Thursday. It's the last day of July. And we're going out with a couple of warnings and a pretty warm day. Abby?
Yeah, last day of July, and now the heat is going to be making its appearance across most of the regions. Though smoke is still a concern, we have that smoke air quality warning in place for much of the regions, north and southern part of the province, still due to the smoke from fires burning, making air quality index really feel close to the 10 plus in some of these areas. Then we now have the heat warning, which is in effect for central and northern parts of the province this morning, talking about from Flin Flon all the way into Lynn Lake, towards to the lake. We should be seeing, the temperatures getting close to 29, not the humidity, just the actual temperatures for the day will be warming up close to 29, 30s in most of this region. So you need to take care. Also look out for your pets. If they're spending time outside, let them have some water. Conditions down south, Winnipeg and the Red River Valley region, we're looking at 15, 16 degrees at this point. We do have widespread smoke in the region also. The wind's just coming out of the west and are feeling a bit light. The smoke will stick around through the day. We're going to see temperatures warm up close to 26 degrees, more like the humidity makes it feel close to 30 degrees today in the city. And that's what we're going to see even tomorrow. Temperatures will be getting close to that range. Down in the Pembina Valley region, more than Winkler, Alton and Morris, smoke also lingering this morning. Temperatures we're seeing just 12 degrees there. Winds coming from the southwest, feeling mild. Highs would be around 24, but it feels warmer than that. Brandon and the rest of the Westman region, we're seeing clear skies and more like cool temperatures around 7, with light winds just coming from the northwest as well. Today we should be seeing lots of sunshine in that area along with local smoke. Temperatures warm up to 25. Expect the clear conditions to stay even into the night and more sunshine tomorrow. In the Parkland region, Dauphin, Robin, Russell, Riding Mountain, we're seeing clear skies also there. 9 degrees at this time, light westerly winds. Sunshine will be in play today with some local smoke warming up to 25. More clear conditions into the overnight. Gimli, we're looking at 12 degrees there. Hazy conditions. Winds coming from the west. It's mild. Today brings more smoky conditions. Highs around 26. The humidity makes it feel close to 30 degrees for folks in Gimli today. Now, tracking conditions conditions into the northern part of the province, where we have not just smoke warnings, but heat also there. The powerful influence, we're looking at both heat and air quality warnings in effect. Temperatures around 14 degrees right now. Winds just from the southwest, and it's pretty light there, not really going to cool things down. There's a chance of showers and thunderstorms this morning. The smoke is going to be sticking around. Temperatures, your high will be 29 degrees today for that part of the province, and even some areas might see 30, 31. Thompson is at 8 degrees, sunny. Smoke will also be a main condition concern there. Winds are just calm this morning. Expect a high of 26, while further north in Churchill, where we don't have any of the warnings, 10 degrees, sunny, light west winds, and local smoke might develop later. We'll see highs around 24. So it's going to be more like hot and smoky down south, up in the northern part of the province. And down south, we're going to see more like hazy and warm conditions. Winnipeg, 15 right now.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Traffic's moving along just fine right now. 788-3093 if you spot a problem. It's time for Business News with Phil DeMont. Good morning, Phil.
It's one of the nice things about living down in the Maritimes. I was talking to Abby before I came on, and the ocean moderates temperatures, so you don't get like humidities up to 31, 32, stuff like that. It'll be warm, and then it kind of goes down, which is kind of nice because as I got older, got kind of tired of the high temperatures.
Yeah, we have very extreme weather in Manitoba. We don't like to do anything halfway. That's what I say. We're a passionate people with a very cold or a very hot weather.
There you go.
All right, let's talk interest rate decisions. We don't like when they swing around. They came out Wednesday for both Canada and the States. So what do they say about the two economies, do you think?
Two different stories, but with the same outcome. You start with Canada. Bank of Canada kept interest rates steady, 2.75%. Third straight meeting. Core inflation up here is stubbornly high. That made the bank hold fire on lowering interest rates this time. But it's eyeing Washington's looming tariff deadline. Right now, the bank's predicting that Canada's economy shrank in the third quarter, shrank in the second quarter already. So that makes us in a recession, puts us in a recession. Trump's tariffs wouldn't boost inflation up here. It doesn't work that way, but they would harm our exports and our economic growth. So the Bank of Canada hedging toward cutting rates towards the end of the year with a stalled economy. In the U.S., the Federal Reserve also kept rates alone, left them alone. 4.25%. Country's inflation rate is actually higher than than Canada's, and its latest quarterly numbers have the American economy growing faster than expected. So a stall out isn't the question there. Instead, higher inflation and a strong economy puts pressure to raise interest rates. Then you have all those tariffs. No matter what they say down there, American consumers pay them in one way or the other. So if they hit, like most economists expect, the inflation rate in the U.S. could jump. So the question with the Federal Reserve isn't lowering rates to keep the economy going. It's do you lower them because Donald Trump wants you to lower them, or do you raise them to stop prices from taking off? It's probably the latter, because I'm just not seeing a lot of data in there that tells me they should be cutting rates anytime soon.
Let's talk about tomorrow, the big deadline, August 1st, for Canada to reach a trade deal with the United States. We've already been hearing this morning that because of what's been happening with Canada talking about recognizing Palestinian statehood, Trump has now brought that into the conversation about trade. Mm-hmm. What do you think, where do you think we're at here?
Well, all signals are that they won't get an agreement by tomorrow. The latest Prime Minister Carney saying negotiators will stay in Washington even if a deal isn't reached on August 1st. Washington is threatening to raise tariffs on Canadian goods outside the existing agreement to 35%. That's where we're going. The problem is these talks aren't expert to expert, hammering out details in each sector, which have been the past kind of discussions like this. Instead, they resemble corporate negotiations, which have more of a I can outwait you flavor, kind of, putting elbows on the table kind of thing. If that's the case, there's two scenarios we've seen with recent trade talks with the U.S. that go in different directions. The European Union struck a deal this month that's seen within the EU as difficult. Germany, France, other countries say the agreement might have had to have been done, but it'll cause big economic problems on the continent. The idea here is they basically kind of caved. China and India, on the other hand, talks between China and the U.S. broke off this week. India is now facing 25% tariffs from Washington, but both economies can withstand some economic pain in search of a better deal. China also has access to important rare earth minerals, which the U.S. needs. India doesn't export in relative terms that much to the U.S. and is actively trying to find other trading partners around Asia. Canada appears to be towing a harder line than the European Union, Washington trying to find other partners internationally, but we depend more on the U.S. market than other countries. So the question becomes, if the deadline isn't reached tomorrow, do we end up like the European Union and get any deal off the table? Or do we wind up like India, which is kind of a little more standing tough?
And finally, the Weston family just bought the Hudson's Bay Charter. What did they pay for the item?
Yeah, fair value. A number of reports have groups and individuals vying for the historical parchment, but the Weston bid $12.5 million, well above the other offers. In turn, the Whittington Investments, which is the Weston's holding company, plans to donate the charter to Canada's Natural Museum of History. It was given back in 1670 by Charles II to the Hudson's Bay Company for exclusive trading rights over a vast tract of land around Hudson's Bay. This year, the Bay declared bankruptcy, forced to sell off the assets. One of those was the company's charter. The firm winding up, the Bay was obliged to sell off the document as part of the bankruptcy proceedings. The question is, would it end up in some company's vault away from public view? The Weston purchase solves that problem. We've seen other rich Canadians act as benefactors towards the arts and history. Ken Thompson, the owner of the Globe and Mail, donated his $300 million art collection to the Art Gallery of Ontario. Noted Canadian art collector Ash Prakash gave $20 million worth of paintings by James Wilson Maurice to the National Gallery of Canada, and the foundation of noted gold miner Pierre Lassonde gave $10 million to the National Art Museum in Quebec City.
Numbers today, Phil, what are they looking like?
Yeah, right now they're kind of mixed in Europe. Germany, France down a bit, UK up a bit. Bank of Japan held interest rates steady, so the Nikkei in Japan was up 1%. Oil down 45 cents, $69.55 a barrel. Gold's up $1, $3,354 US an ounce. And the Canadian dollar losing altitude again, down 1/10 cent, trading at 72.25 cents US.
All right, Phil, talk to you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thanks, Marcy.
Phil DeMont on CBC with our business news. You're on Information Radio, the morning show, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. My name is Marcy Marcusa, and here's a name you might know if you're from Manitoba and you're a music lover, especially William Prince. He has a new album coming out in October, and we have a tune from it this morning to share with you. This is called On Rolls the Wheel.
Skies. Now I hope I can make it back alive, 'cause my tires ain't paid for, all depends on the take home. Wire back the loot to make it right. The road is long, but my thoughts they run longer into the quiet of the night. When no one knows me, drive to another the next day. Then a brand new chapter, born the day after, the last of the miles towards my grave. And I've been here before, and I'll be here again. On rolls the wheel, on rolls the wheel. Through a town with my last name. His house and his body could use a woman's touch. Guys like us don't often change. So I wake up lonely, this place where no one knows me. Drive to another the next day. Then a brand new chapter, born the day after, the last of the miles towards my grave. And I've been here before, and I'll be here again. On rolls the wheel, on rolls the wheel.
I love that grainy effect at the end of that tune. That's a new song from William Prince, who hails from Peguis First Nation here in Manitoba. He's found success all over the world. The tune is called On Rules the Wheel. It's going to be on his new album that is coming out in October. Further From the Country is the name of the album, and it drops on October 17th. It is right now 9 minutes to 7 o'clock. You're on Information Radio live in downtown Winnipeg, where smoke is in the air. We have an air quality warning once again, and that's over most of Manitoba again today, and it is 15 degrees. Our high today is going to be 26 for the last day of July here. Well, hours into his presidency, Donald Trump vowed to terminate DEI programs. He had said that repeatedly, and he didn't waste time. Dismantling diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives from federal departments. He also threatened funding cuts to schools like Harvard if they don't reform to his demands. Now he's taking aim at what he calls woke AI. Now, what does that mean as the race to develop AI heats up? Francis Sims is here to talk about it, Associate Dean of the Faculty of Applied Sciences and Technology at Humber Polytechnic. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So Trump's put out an executive order about this. Tell us a bit about what it says.
Yeah, so his executive order, recently released, people can see it on the internet if they want themselves. It bans federal agencies from using AI systems that does a few things, what he calls woke ideology, which basically means AI systems that refer to systemic racism, gender identity, or diversity, equity, and inclusion are banned from use by any federal institution. It's really part of his broader effort to remove what he calls woke ideology from U.S. institutions. But it's wild because AI doesn't invent values. It scraped the internet. It's taken the data from textbooks. There's lots of copyright lawsuits about that, but it reflects the data it's trained on. And banning these topics doesn't create this neutrality. He talks about two things: ideological neutrality doesn't create this neutrality, and it says that the AI tools need to be truth-seeking. But ultimately, what it does is it replaces the current worldview with something that's more like his own.
Oh, well, and AI can't ever be bias-free because of what you talked about.
No, 100%. I mean, if you think about Canadian history textbooks, when I went to school in the 80s in elementary and middle school and high school, I didn't learn anything about the 60 Scoop or residential schools. Or in fact, I didn't learn much about Indigenous history at all.
None of us did, yeah.
Yeah, textbooks are and I went to school with lots of people who were Mi'kmaq. I'm out on the East Coast. But now our textbooks reflect that, and they're not perfect, but they're better. The same thing happens with AI systems. They're based on human data, and we all have implicit bias, and that's not necessarily bad. It's because of the way we were raised and educated, and whether you went to church or not church or whatever. So that human data has bias in it. And then the people that were deciding with these AI tools what looks like a right answer and a wrong answer, they were humans as well. So there was bias there too. So it's not neutral. So this idea that bias is a system glitch is wrong. It's just inherently part of the design. And ultimately the example of what's happening here is very dangerous because Amazon recently did a test. And the test for their hiring algorithm was to pick the people to interview in this simulated situation that would best work for the company. And surprisingly, what it did is it picked a bunch of men that said, these are the people you should interview, and less women. And so they looked into it and they thought, oh, maybe some developer misprogrammed it. It wasn't the case. It was the fact that Amazon had historically hired a lot of white men. And so the AI algorithm thought that's the kind of person you should hire. And now Donald Trump's administration wants to double down on that. So get rid of any DEI stuff, which means that it's going to even further promote that. So instead of getting rid of the bias, it's actually going to make that kind of bias worse.
He's also hypocritical here, right? Because he signed other orders that talk about, not getting involved in any regulation of AI. And here he is trying to sign regulation over AI. How have tech companies responded to the directive so far?
Yeah, they're relatively mute, which is really kind of sad. They're implementing this back in the background quietly. And I think there's a couple of reasons. One is they want the federal contracts. So, of course, they're going to do that. But the second thing is they don't want to rub the Trump administration the wrong way, because if that happens, just look at Columbia University, Harvard University, or Tesla and Elon Musk. It does not go well for those organizations. And if you're on the same side as Donald Trump, maybe he's going to negotiate away the digital services tax, which he successfully did with Canada. So we think they're quietly implementing two versions of their systems in the background. But how long they can do that for, it's unclear, because that's going to be an expensive venture. So, in fact, what he's doing is he's creating this regulated environment that's more difficult for these companies to implement than anything that's been happening in the past.
How might all of this come down to the average person and the tech that we use? How might it shape it?
Yeah, so I think we'll first start to see it in schools, right? Because our students were the first to use these things like ChatGPT, Gemini, all this stuff to help with their assignments. So, think about a scenario where you're in Winnipeg, where a school board chatbot might downplay Indigenous land acknowledgements or omit curriculum tied to Orange Shirt Day because somehow that system was thought that was related to diversity. Or a healthcare assistant could skip information about culturally safe birth practices or land-based healing practices because they're considered, diverse. So I think we're going to first start to see it in the schools. We're going to start to see it in chatbots, and we're going to see it in hiring. Imagine if you have the word diversity on your resume because you were part of some EDI committee previously, or you were part of some inclusive, curriculum design or something like this in your company. Well, maybe because you have that word diverse on your resume, it'll filter you out and you'll never get the interview. That's where we're going to start to see it. It'll really depend on how well Canada can manage the use of those U.S. tools, because the reality is we have a lot of U.S. tools coming in to the country. It'll yet to be seen, but I think we'll start to see it in the schools and then in hiring first.
Francis, thank you very much. It won't be the last conversation we have about this. Appreciate you starting us thinking about it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Many concerns here. Francis Sims is an Associate Dean of the Faculty of Applied Sciences and Technology at Humber Polytechnic. Obviously, lots of outstanding questions as well. It is 3 minutes to 7 o'clock. Let's go to Heather Wells for some answers about what's developing in our news in Manitoba. Hi there.
Good morning. Well, the Government of Canada plans to recognize Palestine as a state in September. We're going to hear more on that and reaction to it coming up on World Report at 7. Ramsey Zeed at the Canadian Palestinian Association of Manitoba says his community's been waiting to hear this for years. He says they couldn't ask for anything more. Manitoba's Minister for Mining is pushing back against a new survey concluding the mining industry has less confidence in Manitoba than it did a year ago. According to the Fraser Institute, the province ranks 26th among jurisdictions around the world as an attractive place to invest in mining. That is down from 6th last year. We'll hear from the Minister, Jamie Moses, in our next local news at 7:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
You're welcome.
Traffic moving along fine so far, 788-3093 if you need us. It's always quiet on this day before a summer long weekend. A lot of people take an extra day off too. In the weather situation, 15 in Winnipeg, 7 in Brandon and Thompson. Smoke in Winnipeg and Thompson, clear to the west. Brandon just mainly clear. And in Winnipeg today, a high of 26. Most of the province does have smoke warnings, the air quality issues rather, except Western Manitoba's kind of a pocket where you're doing better. And we have heat warnings today in Northern Manitoba. In the next hour of the show, we have a follow-on a story we had yesterday on the program. A Winnipeg mom who said her son's school wasn't equipped to care for his ADHD. So at 5 years old, they disenrolled him. He can't go to school there this fall. After the news today, the 7:30 news, we'll be joined by an expert who will explain why some kids are misunderstood, he says, and why he believes many teachers and educators don't have the resources to help all of the kids that may need those supports. So where do we go from here to close these gaps? We'll have more on that. Stay tuned. Also in the next hour of Information Radio, a group that's been patrolling the streets of Winnipeg helping vulnerable women is marking 1 year since its creation. We're going to speak to the head of Morgan's Warriors. And while Environment Canada has issued the air quality warnings in our province of late, it isn't stopping some Winnipeggers from enjoying the outdoors. So how are people coping with the smoky conditions? CBC's Jim Agapito is out and about. Stay with us.
Today on The Current.
Oh, Canada! Their time has come!
I'm Catherine Cullen. The countdown is on to Canada hosting the World Cup, but there is growing concern in Vancouver about how details of a contract with FIFA about security around the host stadium will affect businesses and residents.
There could be extreme measures of security.
That's coming up on The Current.
The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. U.S. President Donald Trump is slamming Canada's plan to recognize a Palestinian state. Prime Minister Mark Carney made the announcement late yesterday, and overnight on social media, Trump said that move will make it even harder for the U.S. to reach a trade deal with Canada. That deadline is tomorrow. The CBC's David Thurton has more on Carney's diplomatic pivot.
The deepening suffering of civilians leaves no room for delay in coordinated international action.
Prime Minister Mark Carney says the humanitarian situation in Gaza has become intolerable. With fears Israel's restrictions on aid is leaving Gaza on the brink of famine. Carney says Canada will join allies recognizing the Palestinian state at the UN General Assembly in September.
This intention is predicated on the Palestinian Authority's commitment to much-needed reforms, including commitments by the Palestinian Authority's President Abbas to fundamentally reform its governance, to hold general elections in 2026 in which Hamas can play no part, and to demilitarize the Palestinian state.
Israel condemned the move.
We reject that, of course.
Ido Moed, Israel's ambassador, says he doubts the Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas will follow through.
Abbas's commitments, we've heard them so many times before.
Mona Abu Amara is Canada's former chief representative to the Palestinian General Delegation. Now posted in Italy, she says with Carney and Abbas talking to each other, the time to act is now, given the conditions in Gaza.
So the Palestinian people have been living hell for 2 years. They know what they want. They need the opportunity to actually build their own state.
Carney said he recognizes it will be a while before Palestinians can go to the polls. He also did not say what will happen if the Palestinian Authority doesn't live up to its promises. David Thurton, CBC News, Ottawa.
A trade deal between Canada and the U.S. is looking increasingly unlikely to come by tomorrow. But negotiators are still in Washington trying to reach an agreement by that August 1st tariff deadline. The Trump administration is also facing some internal pressure from the U.S. liquor sector. Karen Pauls brings us that part of the story.
They're popping corks and pouring shots.
Enjoy that.
But it's not just a social event. Republican and Democratic Senators Rand Paul and Tim Kaine sharing the stage at the Cato Institute, a libertarian think tank in Washington, trying to de-escalate the trade war with Canada.
It's not just the tariffs increasing the cost. There are store owners just taking Kentucky bourbon off the shelves out of pure patriotism.
The retaliation issues end up being very, very painful. Just get rid of the Canadian tariffs.
It all began when U.S. President Donald Trump started making comments like this.
I say Canada should be our 51st state. There's no tariffs, no nothing.
Most premiers pulled U.S. liquor off government store shelves in a symbolic protest. When Trump followed through on tariffs, Canada retaliated. Although Alberta and Saskatchewan have since lifted their bans, industry groups say the sale of U.S. spirits in Canada fell by more than 66% between March and April.
That's Camp Chardonnay. This is a wine, one of our kind of main exports to Canada.
California vintner Kenny Lickett-Prakong hasn't sold anything to Canada for months.
Let's get business back to where it was. I think everybody wants that.
So this is a Virginia producer.
George Hodson agrees. He's with Veritas Vineyards and Winery in Charlottesville, Virginia.
When we lose market, it's very difficult to get it back.
In the midst of tense bilateral trade negotiations, U.S. distillers and vintners don't want to be forgotten. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Washington.
Police in BC Okanagan's region are helping firefighters evacuate residents from about 400 properties. A fast-moving wildfire is burning between Peachland and West Kelowna. Ground crews, air tankers, and helicopters were all dispatched yesterday. Taylor Coleman is with the BC Wildfire Service.
Thankfully, the air tankers and skimmers that are responding have really helped cool fire behavior and slow the spread.
Hundreds more properties were put on evacuation alert overnight. People are being told to get ready to leave at a moment's notice. Wildfires are also still threatening homes in northern Saskatchewan, but the community of Beauval is breathing a sigh of relief. After a month-long evacuation order, its 700 residents are now returning home. Alexander Silberman reports.
I'm feeling anxious. I'm excited.
Tyrese Lafleur is loading bags of clothes onto a bus outside a Saskatoon hotel. After weeks of waiting, Lafleur and her daughter are finally able to return home to the village of Beauval and reunite with family they left behind.
And my mom, my dad, they stayed back. My dad is security and my mom's the nurse over there.
On the ground in Beauval, local officials are working to make sure the grocery store gets stocked and the gas station has fuel. And the Canadian Armed Forces are helping to put out hotspots. Flames ravaged the forest around the village, burning 3,000 square kilometers.
The response has been exceptionally fast.
Lieutenant Colonel James Hudson says about 300 troops are now in the province. They're focused on cleanup work, allowing highly skilled firefighters to concentrate on more dangerous zones.
Our soldiers are energized and eager to help those who need it.
While the danger is over for Beauval, fires are continuing to threaten other parts of the north. Sandra Maurice is from Jans Bay, which remains under an evacuation order.
No, it's not safe. It's still flaring up behind the community.
Maurice watches the buses to Beauval fill up with evacuees and drive away, hoping she too will be traveling home soon. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, Regina.
Ukraine's parliament is restoring independence to 2 anti-corruption agencies. People in Kiev cheered as a majority of politicians voted in favor of the new law. Today's vote is a stunning reversal of a law that was approved just last week. There was public backlash, as well as criticism from the European Union. Protesters rallied near the parliament buildings today. They urged politicians to restore watchdog independence. One of Canada's leading soldiers says alleged extremists in the ranks are wearing down morale in the Canadian Army. Lieutenant General Mike Wright also says recently exposed social media posts are eroding the trust the military has been working to regain following widespread allegations of sexual misconduct. Murray Brewster has more on those concerns.
The credibility of the Canadian Army, the reputation of the Canadian Army is being questioned by Canadians.
Lieutenant General Mike Wright, reflecting on the extremism charges against a handful of current and former soldiers in Quebec and the racist, homophobic, and lewd social media posts allegedly involving members of the Cameron Highlanders of Ottawa.
What really makes me angry, makes me livid, something I probably shouldn't say on CBC, but pisses me off, is that the important work that the Canadian Army needs to do to modernize, our eye is being taken off that, our focus is being taken off that.
Wright says the military has worked hard to improve the cultural climate within the ranks, but the problem may not be entirely the Army. There are questions about how seriously military police took the case after they were tipped off to the social media posts last year. Instead of launching an investigation, they decided to let the Cameron Highlanders review the matter themselves internally.
So when the military police say they had no offense to investigate, I'm utterly flabbergasted that they thought that there was nothing for them to investigate.
Rory Fowler is a lawyer representing the commanding officer of the Cameron Highlanders, who says one look at the Facebook page should have set off alarm bells.
And I'm not entirely convinced that they did anything to investigate the complaint in the 3 months that they had it.
Military police have now reopened the case, citing new information. The damage, however, may already have been done. Murray Brewster, CBC News, Ottawa.
Canada's Summer McIntosh is now a 3-time gold medalist at the World Aquatics Championship in Singapore.
It's going to be close. McIntosh takes it out in a championship record. Another gold to her, silver to Smith.
McIntosh was way out ahead in the 200-meter butterfly. Fast enough for gold, but not fast enough to set a new record.
It was so close, and I know that the last 15 meters I took an extra breath and I should have put my head down, but I mean, this is definitely going to fuel me. Really just trying to get closer and closer to that record, because if there's one world record that I've said that I wanted to break since the start of my career, it was this one.
McIntosh wants to win 5 gold medals these games so she can match the record set by U.S. swimmer Michael Phelps in 2007. 3 down. Now she just has to win the 400-meter and 800-meter individual medleys. Way to set goals, Summer McIntosh. An amazing Canadian example. That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Seven 10 a.m. Good morning, everyone. It is the last day of July. Thanks for being with us on Information Radio. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You're on CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. We have a follow this hour. Yesterday, we heard from a Winnipeg mom who says her son's school wasn't equipped to care for his ADHD, so at just the age of 5 years old, They disenrolled him. They kicked him out.
Kindergarten is the boot camp for our society, the first place where we're all coming together as a society to learn these norms. And for kids with ADHD, often they need some more time or they need some more direct instruction to do that.
That is an expert on ADHD. He's going to respond to this story and explain why some kids, he says, are misunderstood. He also thinks, though, that many educators just do not have the resources to help kids. So we're going to talk all about that this hour on the show. But we begin with talking about Morgan's Warriors, the group that's been patrolling the streets of Winnipeg, helping vulnerable women. They are marking 1 year since their creation, so a special day and a somber day in many ways. But we're going to hear more about what that has been like, the journey along the way, and what they're reflecting on today. So stay tuned. Right now, let's go to Heather Welsh. She's live in our news center, and she has your headlines.
Good morning. Well, a recent string of alleged extortions has business owners and workers in Winnipeg fearing for their safety. Some say they're being threatened with arson and violence if they don't hand over money. We're going to hear from one Winnipeg business owner coming up. And Bubba sucks at fishing. At least that's what the road signs cropping up outside Morden say.
It's much easier to smile and laugh about it than it is to be upset about it.
Steve Bubba Peters, the target of the running joke, although he isn't sure which of his friends is responsible. But he is now using his new notoriety to raise money and buy free fishing gear for kids in the Morden-Winkler area. We're going to hear more about that in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
Gee, I hope a billboard doesn't go up that says Marcy sucks at golf.
No, because that wouldn't be true.
It would be true. But I also, if I made T-shirts that went crazy, I would follow Bubba's lead and give back to the community. I love that story.
It is. It's great. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
Well, if you are looking at doing maybe some fishing this long weekend, or maybe you're already off today and you're starting early with the long weekend vibes, Abby is here to talk about the forecast. Now, we do have some issues with heat and with smoke.
Yeah, the big story is smoke in the air and the heat in the northern part of the province. But looking from north to south this morning, we're going to see the hazy conditions, which will continue to spread. We do have that heat warning in effect. This is touching parts of central Manitoba and tracking it all the way up north. We're talking as far as Lynn Lake. It's going to be hot in that part of the province. So, and of course, this air quality warning is still in place due to smoke from the fires burning in that part of the province as well. Air quality warning will be poor, and sensitivity is a concern. If it's affecting you, please avoid spending much time outside. In Winnipeg right now, 16 degrees. We have smoky skies, and that air quality warning also in effect for Winnipeg and surrounding areas. The smoke will cause breathing issues for a lot of people, so it's best to limit outside time if it's affecting you. This smoke is going to be sticking around through the day, and then we'll see some sunny conditions peek through those hazy skies. Temperatures for Winnipeg today warming up close to 26. However, with the humidity factored in, it will be hedging close to 30 degrees. While up north, we're going to see temperatures, actual temperatures in the northern part of the province today climb close to 30 degrees, and it's going to feel hotter than that, hence that heat warning we have in place. So please look out for yourself and also the pets.
And I also just want to mention that in the north, like, heat warnings are triggered with lower temperatures, just in case you're wondering, because obviously we have different temperatures year round. It's cooler in the north. All right, let's get to what's happening in the commuting situation. Sierra's come in. Anything?
It is summer. It is a summer
quiet.
drive out there. It is quiet. I'm a little lonely. I got a call from someone earlier, and then they called me back about a minute later saying, "Oh, actually, it's been resolved." So I was like, "Oh, okay. So nothing to report. Oh, amazing. I love it." So things are moving smoothly out there on your drive. But if that is not the case and something's getting in your way or slowing you down, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. The number is 204-788-3093.
Well, as I mentioned up first this half hour, they are a group of women who've been patrolling the streets, helping our city's most vulnerable. And now the Indigenous-led outreach group Morgan's Warriors is celebrating a 1-year anniversary. The group was created by Melissa Robinson during the trial of convicted serial killer Jeremy Skibitsky, who preyed on vulnerable Indigenous women. She named the group after her cousin, Morgan Harris, who was one of the 4 women killed by Skibitsky. The group's mission is to help protect Winnipeg's most vulnerable women, as I mentioned, but also to help families find their missing loved ones. Melissa Robinson joins us to reflect on 1 year of the creation of the group. And thank you so much for being here on your special day.
Good morning. Yes, thank you for having me.
What's the emotion today thinking about 1 year?
Lots of pride, lots of happiness, and just knowing that we're out there making a difference.
If Morgan were alive, what do you think she would feel about the fact that you have taken this on to help others?
She'd be pretty proud. I often think of, if we had been around before her passing, maybe she'd still be here with us. So I know that, right now she travels with us. Her spirit is still with us. And, she's out there watching us from above.
How much has it grown in a year? Like, how many people are involved in your outreach now?
Well, that's the thing. So our numbers vary. We do have a solid core group of 12, though, maybe sometimes more. But we probably are looking at, upwards of. Over the year, we've had probably 100 people come through.
Yeah.
When the time is available, they'll come through, join us when they can. And, new people come through all the time too. And so we're just really enjoying it, meeting new people and getting them on board with us.
What successes that the organization has, met or accomplished in the last year come to mind for you this morning? And maybe there are moments, of interaction. Success can be varying things, but what are you thinking?
Sure.
What are you thinking about?
I think of the many people that, we've helped in regards to, women wanting to go into treatment. We've helped with that. We've helped our women get home up north. So contacting the community, getting in contact with the chief, and, and just providing that safety, that all-around safety for them. There's been so many situations where we've come across, very vulnerable women in very dangerous situations, quite late at nighttime. And, we've been able to remove them from the streets to protect them. And I always think to myself, and I always thank our group all the time, like, we are always in the right place at the right time. It just seems to happen that way. So looking back at a year and everything we've done has just been absolutely amazing.
For people that haven't followed, what your organization does do, just logistically, are you typically out in the day or at night? And in what geographic area have you guys been focusing on?
So our hours vary. It's kind of in stone, Thursday to Sunday, 7 to 11 p.m. But our group primarily is out almost 7 days a week because we not only provide outreach in the community, but we're also looking for our lost relatives. Families that are missing their loved ones and needing some help. That's what our group is out there doing as well. So they are boots on the ground, searching all parts of the city. So our outreach isn't just primarily in one area. We're all over the city.
This group of 12, the core group, how does it feel to have these strong women, together?
They're amazing. I say it to them all the time. We wouldn't be where we are without all of them. They're the ones that keep that ball moving. And, it's not just one person. It's always, a community.
How did you all come together? Like, did some of you know each other before, or had you come together as, unfortunately, families that might have missing loved ones that have known each other? Is there a story there?
So the majority of everyone that we know is from the beginning of all of this, right? With the Search the Landfill movement, when our family took up space at Brady Landfill and became Camp Morgan, our First Nation Indigenous warriors, they've come on, walked with us. And so we're all just a big family now is what we are.
What have you learned, looking at some serious matters here, what have you learned in the past year from what you've been seeing on the streets and the people that you've met about the pressing needs of vulnerable women that continue to persist?
Well, the biggest thing for me and our group is that there's no safe space for women, for just women. We have lots of shelters here in the city, but they accommodate both male and female. So our only option right now at this very moment is Velma's house, and they're limited with their space. So what I would love to see, what our group would love to see, is a shelter primarily just for women, where they can come in, feel safe, and lay their head down to rest and actually sleep.
What's the community reception been to Morgan's Warriors?
Amazing. They know that we're not patrolling the streets. We're out there providing support, providing resources, providing outreach, and just ensuring that everyone is good. So touching base with everyone, letting them know that there's no judgment. We're here to support you in any way that looks like.
What do you want to accomplish with Morgan's Warriors sort of in the years ahead, beyond that safe shelter space for women? Mm-hmm. How would you like to see it grow?
I would love to see us run our own facility. Provide that safe space for our women. So if, someone's out there wanting to give us a building and equip us with everything necessary, I know our group, based off our logo, Helping is Healing.
I was looking at your shirt this morning.
Yes, yeah, we would absolutely be on board for that.
And what do you need immediately? If someone's listening, donations or volunteers, or what kinds of things might help in the short term?
Always volunteers. We're always about safety and numbers. When you think of things that we take advantage of every day, right? Like clean socks, bottled water, snacks, we can easily go to our fridge, go to our tap, pull out whatever it is that we need, where our vulnerable people don't have that access. So we want to be able to provide that to them. But of course, it's at an expense, and it's costing us all the time. So if people want to help out that way, we would absolutely appreciate it.
And what do you hope people might understand or take away from the work that you've been doing?
To know that everyone matters. Our people that are out there, that are suffering, living on the streets. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a story that's led them to that point in their life. And my biggest thing is to always acknowledge everyone. When we're out there, take that moment. You could be that only person that says hello to them that day. Let them know that they matter.
I love that you have sort of this joy vibe coming off you today. And you're actually going to spend the day. I mean, you could do whatever you wish with today, but today happens to be, you shared, I could share this, yes. Not just that 1 year from Morgan's Warriors, but yes. I think your husband's birthday.
My husband's birthday, yes.
And you're giving to community.
We are.
How?
So
what's happening?
I asked him what he wanted to do. I said, what does this year look like for you? What do you want to do to celebrate your birthday? And without even a second thought, he said, I want to celebrate with the community. So I want to have a barbecue and let's feed the community. So we're going to be at the Thunderbird House today from 2 p.m. to about 9 p.m., barbecuing hot dogs, giving out chips, giving out drinks to everyone that is needed. So it'll be a good day. It'll be a fun day, and we'll have some cake as well.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing with us this morning, especially when such a busy day. Thanks for being here.
For sure. Thank you.
That is Melissa Robinson live in our CBC studio this morning. The creator of Morgan's Warriors celebrating, marking 1 year of their anniversary of the work they do in community. There will be that barbecue today if you want to be there, and a great day for it. We're going to have good weather in Winnipeg today. Thunderbird House later today starts at 2 o'clock, and our high today is 26. And besides widespread smoke, unfortunately, it should be a pretty decent day with no showers.
CBC Gem is your ultimate sports destination. It's free, it's live and on demand, and it's everything you need for a summer full of edge-of-your-seat sports action. Experience exciting leagues featuring elite athletes in the Wanda Diamond League, the new Northern Super League with top women's international and Canadian players, and a whole lot more. Watch free on CBC Gem.
Well, it's 7:25, and speaking of morning sports, Scott Regehr is here to tee up some excitement. Good morning.
Hey there, Marcy.
So let's start in the pool. Summer McIntosh going for that gold medal hat trick this morning.
Look at McIntosh go. Will it be a world record? Perhaps not now, but it's going to be gold medal number 3.
She is incredible.
never seen somebody so disappointed to win the World Championships.
McIntosh, Marcy, winning gold in her favorite event, the 200-meter butterfly. That happened just about an hour or so ago. You heard the announcer mention the look of disappointment on her face. Summer was just 180 milliseconds off of setting a world record, which essentially is the blink of an eye.
Going into tonight, my coach and I, our big goal was to break that world record. To see that I missed it by that little, and I know that I messed up the last about 15 meters of my race, but it's still a PB, and PBs are hard to come by once you get to this level of the sport, so have to be happy with that, and this gives me a lot of confidence. I felt so strong throughout the entire race, so heading into the 800, I'm going to be really excited.
Talk about a perfectionist. The 800-meter freestyle, Marcy, is Summer's next event, and it's likely to be the toughest for her to win of the 5 individual races she's competing in. She's going to be up against her idol, the woman she had a poster of on her bedroom wall growing up. That's Katie Ledecky. Although she's a decade older than McIntosh, Ledecky is still in top form. In fact, she set her latest world record in the 800 just a few months ago. So the heats for that event go tonight. So not much time to rest for Summer McIntosh.
Going to be fun to watch. Let's go to tennis now, where the number of Canadians at the Canadian Open is dwindling.
It is. Gabrielle Diallo is the last remaining player on the men's side. Victoria Mboko on the women's side, as far as Canadian content's concerned. Yesterday, Felix Auger-Aliassime and Jeannie Bouchard both got bounced from the tournament. Bouchard's loss, Marcy, carried a little extra sting since it does bring an end to her career, a career that saw her win or get close to winning the Wimbledon final, making the Wimbledon final, and reaching as high as 5th in the world rankings. Bouchard shared these thoughts with her hometown crowd in Montreal.
Tennis has given me so much. I am filled with so much gratitude for this sport and for the people who helped me along the way. I want to thank my family for their sacrifice and support. And I want you guys to know, when this crowd cheers for me, they're cheering for you guys too, because I wouldn't be here without you.
Yeah, among her family watching was her twin sister, Beatrice, who during the match, Marcy, was circulating a petition asking fans to get Jeannie to change her mind and to unretire. That didn't work. Jeannie says her tennis career means she's missed out on too many things, including a university education, and that she now wants to focus on the rest of her life. And to that end, she was asking the TV reporters yesterday whether their stations were hiring. I do like her chances of finding work in that field.
Right. Finally, trade deadline day in Major League Baseball. What, if anything, do you expect the Jays to do?
They have to bring in more arms, and I think plural. When it comes to relievers, Marcy, there are fewer available right now than there were yesterday at this time. Star closers Ryan Helsley and Johan Duran were acquired by the Mets and the Phillies, respectively. Still, Toronto's bullpen needs at least one more top-quality arm if it's going to be considered World Series worthy. And I think the same can be said for their starting pitching. The Jays staff is good. It's not great. There's no true ace in it. Imagine if one of, and I'll knock on wood, if a Kevin Gausman or a Chris Bassett got hurt, Toronto would have no shot at a title then. GM Ross Atkins, I think he needs to make like his predecessor Alex Anthopoulos circa 2015 and bring in a star the likes of David Price. Which makes me bring in the Fortnite music, because whoever they bring in, whatever ace they might acquire today, better not like Fortnite, because we know that leads, as David Price showed us, to carpal tunnel syndrome. Remember that?
No.
No? Yeah,
Totally
he couldn't hold the
not.
baseball because he played too much Fortnite. He couldn't make a full grip. Anyway,
I shouldn't be
buyer beware
laughing
is all I'm saying.
I shouldn't be laughing because that can be very painful. But
it really it can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the theme. I got all caught up in that.
Yeah.
All right,
Boys might have inspired that one. Yeah.
All right. I'm guessing. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Scott.
You bet.
That is Scott Rick here with Morning Sports on CBC. Well, still ahead, we've been talking about the air quality advisories for most of the province today. CBC's Jim Agapito headed out to Assiniboine Park yesterday, talking to people about how they're coping with the smoking conditions. So stay tuned. We're going to hear from the Korean Seniors Line Dance Group that was out and about in the park yesterday about their thoughts on this and more. And we have much more coming up here on Information Radio as well. So stay with us. If you have any problems on the commute, 788-3093. It's been pretty quiet so far. Your CBC News is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it is 16 degrees right now. We end July still covered in smoke, widespread smoke in our forecast today. A high of 26, and you will feel a bit of humidity as well today. A recent string of alleged extortions has business owners and workers in Winnipeg fearing for their safety. Some say they're being threatened with arson and violence if they don't hand over money. As CBC's Rosanna Hempel explains, one man believes one group is behind the criminal scheme.
In early July, someone broke into Jay Delaney's family business, Tita's Thai restaurant, and threw a Molotov cocktail inside. 2 weeks later, their other business, Maisuni Thai Cuisine, was also set on fire. It was so badly damaged it'll be closed for months. Delaney's heard from about 10 other businesses who say they're being threatened with arson and violence if they don't pay up. One convenience store owner told us he believes the same group of men is behind the threats. He says he's been getting calls and texts for weeks from people demanding money. Delaney feels the police response has been slow.
Everything's captured, which is why I'm really in shock that, why haven't the police made any arrests yet?
Winnipeg police say they can't speak to any connections between the incidents because the investigations are ongoing. They urge anyone being threatened to come forward to police. In the meantime, some of the targets have left the city as they no longer feel safe. Rosanna Hempel, CBC News, Winnipeg.
There is a new complication in trade talks between Canada and the U.S. President Donald Trump is lashing out at Canada for supporting a Palestinian state. Late yesterday, Prime Minister Mark Carney made this announcement.
Canada intends to recognize the state of Palestine at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September.
In a post overnight on his Truth Social site, President Trump said Canada has just announced it's backing statehood for Palestine. That will make it very hard for us to make a trade deal with them. Oh, Canada. Now in Winnipeg, Ramsey Zeed at the Canadian Palestinian Association of Manitoba says his community has been waiting a long time for this announcement.
This is something that we've been asking for years, and we're finally almost there. So this is amazing news. I couldn't have asked for anything more.
Israel's foreign ministry says its government rejects Carney's move. You can hear the latest reaction to this story coming up on World Report at 8. A new survey by a conservative think tank concludes the mining industry has less confidence in Manitoba than it did a year ago. According to the Fraser Institute, this province ranks 26th among jurisdictions around the world as an attractive place to invest in mining. That is down from 6th last year. Jamie Moses, the Manitoba Minister for Mining, believes this province is actually more attractive to mining.
What I think right now is that we've shown significant steps of how we're getting better and how we're working with industry better. I think you would hear that if we talk to some of our industry partners.
Manitoba has only 4 active mines at Thompson, Snow Lake, Burnick Lake, and Russell. A 5th is under construction east of Lynn Lake. A war monument that stood at Portage in Maine is still going to be relocated, even though some posts on social media suggest otherwise. The Manitoba Métis Federation says the plan all along is to have the statue prominently displayed in a cemetery. But some people were questioning that on social media after a photo appeared to show that monument outdoors beside garbage. The MMF's Kat Petnode says the relocation is scheduled for this fall.
It will be in the field of honor at Brookside Cemetery. It's going to go where it belongs and where it can continue to be respected along with other veterans.
The statue was removed from Portage in Maine during construction to reopen that intersection to pedestrians. A Manitoba man has turned a running joke about his fishing skills into a charity his whole community has gotten behind. It started about a year ago when Steve Bubba Peters saw a road sign outside Morden reading, "Bubba sucks at fishing." The sign was updated over the months with new messages that continued to jokingly disparage Peters' fishing ability. He still doesn't know which of his friends is the culprit.
I like to think I'm a pretty easygoing person, and I enjoy jokes. So I think it's more so just the fact that somebody was creative enough to come up with this And I think the greatest thing about it is it's still a mystery. Like, having no idea who it is, I think that adds to the whole thing.
Peters decided to use his newfound notoriety to raise funds on social media, and by selling Bubba Sucks t-shirts, he spent the money adding some of his own on free fishing gear for local kids. He plans to hand out more rods and reels at the Winkler Harvest Festival next weekend. You can find more news on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thanks, Heather.
You're welcome.
All right, regional forecast time now with Abby Adiyemi.
Yeah, we're looking at smoky skies all the way from the south, tracking it into the northern part of the province today with sun in the mix and heat building in the central parts of the province and into the northern regions. That heat warning will be in fact covering the power Flin Flon all the way down to Lynn Lake. Highs near 29 degrees today, and it would last even into tomorrow. Air quality warnings also in place across much of the province, north and south today, and Winnipeg included. Winnipeg at this time, 16 degrees, smoky skies. We will see thick smoke hanging around through the day. Winds will be coming from the west, and it's going to be mild, 26 degrees. That's the high for today. In the Pembina Valley region, Modern, Winkler, Altoona, Morris, we're looking at 13 degrees. The smoky conditions and light westerly winds will be in play today. Highs around 24, feeling close to 27, 28, and that smoke will remain even in place into the overnight period. In the Westman region, Brandon is currently at 8 degrees under some clear conditions. Smoke is expected later today, highs of 25 with light northeast winds. Tonight stays clear, and it's going to be more like a sunnier into Friday. Dauphin is sitting at 10 degrees and sunny at this time. Light winds are also coming from the west. Some local smoke could move in today, and we'll see highs around 25 degrees, and then it's going to remain clear tonight. With temperatures getting low to around 11 degrees. Gimli sitting at 12 degrees, also smoky there right now. Light winds coming from the southwest. We're going to see smoky conditions today and highs of 26, but the humidity is going to make it feel close to 30 degrees. That smoke is going to be hanging around for most of the day into tomorrow. Now, tracking conditions into the northern part of the province. We're talking about in the power at this time. We're seeing 15 degrees in that part of the province. Sunny there. There's a mix of sun and clouds in the forecast, and a chance of showers and even thunderstorms, but clearing by the afternoon period. And we'll see that the windy conditions will come from the south, but the smoke is going to be remaining in that region, similar to Flin Flon. And then in Thompson, we're looking at 7 degrees and mainly sunny at this time with calm winds. Today, we'll see more smoke in play, highs around 26, and the smoky conditions will stay even into tonight. But further north in Churchill, no warnings there for now. We see 12 degrees and sunny conditions, just light winds coming from the west. A mix of sun and clouds will move in later, and then that smoke that you're not getting now will be coming towards your direction around the noon period, and we'll see temperatures warm up to 24. And today, Churchill has been enjoying those cool temperatures, but today we should see Churchill get close to around 28, 29 with the humidity factored in. So across board, we're warming up. We're ending the month and we're warming up across most regions today with widespread smoke.
Traffic's fine. Sierra is in. Maybe I jumped the gun here. I just said traffic's fine. Have you got anything, Sierra, to tell us about?
Well, Marcy, you're correct.
Okay.
Things are fine.
Great.
I just figured, you know what? I should tell the people that things are fine, and read the number, unless you have.
You go for it.
Okay, 204-788-3093, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether you're walking, biking, driving, maybe you're heading out to the lake. I'd love to hear what things are looking like out there for you. 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, Sierra.
Thank you.
Well, wherever you're going and whatever you're doing, because of all the smoky conditions Abby's been talking about, you'll know that Environment Canada has been advising all of us to limit our time outside and take precautions because of poor air quality. This past week, there were days when Winnipeg's air quality index maxed out at level 10 and above. That's the worst it can get. And we are there again this morning. CBC's Jim Agapito wondered how you're dealing with it. So he headed out to Winnipeg's Assiniboine Park yesterday and asked people how they're coping with smoky conditions. And he caught up first with the Korean seniors line dance group.
Kickboard chain, skate, treble top. My name is Naomi Kim, and our group is Wednesday, a dance group, line dance group.
The air quality is high, but it's not stopping all of your group of getting together. Can you tell me why?
because there's nothing stopping us for dancing. And today, actually better than a couple of days ago. So, yeah.
Has it ever had an impact on you having to cancel the class because the smoke was really bad?
Never.
Never?
Never.
Never at all?
Never at all. We love to dance.
Has it ever affected your health?
No. I asked everybody if somebody concerned, they don't need to come. But everybody is okay to come. We enjoy it. Then smoke, the air quality. Today is actually, it's not perfect, but, we're okay. No problem.
Can I ask you, so everyone here is okay?
Yes. See, there you go.
Hi, what's your full name?
I'm Jonathan Forsyth.
Air quality has been an issue in Winnipeg, like on a day like today, but I see that you're on your bike. Have you experienced any issues with air quality at all?
Not really, but I also just recently quit smoking, so it doesn't bug me at all. The last few days, I've been doing like 40K biking every day.
So it isn't affecting you at all?
No.
I'm curious, have you seen anyone biking around with a mask on?
Quite a few, actually. I've seen about 15 to 20 people within the last week or so. Just put on some music, and if you want to wear a mask, cool. If you don't, that's cool too.
My name is Hannah Haight.
It's a beautiful day today, but the air quality warning is very high. You still chose to be outside and enjoy the day. Can you tell me why is that?
Well, man, I just love to be outside regardless, and I love to be with my friend and enjoy the sun, enjoy the summer weather, and I feel like maybe just put that out of mind, that out that I'm breathing in air that maybe isn't particularly healthy for me. I don't know, to enjoy a summer moment.
Now, has it affected you at all in any way?
A little bit, honestly. I can feel that my lungs are a little bit itchy, a bit scratchy. But same, I kind of just put that out of mind for the moment, for the time being.
Okay, so before you go out, I'm curious, do you check the air quality at all?
If I go out and I smell that it smells quite smoky, and it's kind of apparent, the sun is kind of not very clear and it just looks smoky around, I will check it. However, if those signs aren't there, I kind of I don't. A couple weeks ago, the air quality was the worst I think it's ever been. And just the smell of smoke didn't disappear. It just was very, I don't know, the air was very thick with smoke. So I did, I cut my plans short and we just went home. Yeah.
Can I get you to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Taylor Cork.
Are you aware of the current air quality today?
Yes, I'm aware.
Okay, and it's pretty high, huh?
Yeah, it's noticeably high.
Okay, so how does that affect your decision to be outside?
When I went outside, when I first left my house today, I feel like I noticed it was high, but it wasn't going to stop me from going outside. I have plans with my lovely friend, and I just feel like it's still a beautiful day and I didn't want to waste it. So it didn't really affect my decision too much.
What are some of the things that you might have experienced with, a little bit of the smoke quality affecting your lungs?
I feel like maybe within the past couple of months I've had a cough and it has not gone away. It might be a little TMI, but I'm coughing up phlegm a lot, which is kind of gross, but it's noticeable and it hasn't changed for a very long time. This summer I've started getting into running more recently, and definitely I can notice it affecting my lungs a lot more when I run, when it's a day that it's less smoky versus than when it is. I can definitely feel my lungs feel a bit more irritated. So I haven't gone out running maybe twice because of the smoke.
Sprague, Arborg, and also up to the Paw, Flin Flon, Thompson, Nelson, Norway House, and all through that Lynn Lake area as well. It has ended the advisory for Dauphin, Russell, Swan River. So just there is a pocket there that is doing a little bit better than the rest of us. But take care and make those choices. If you want to tell us about how it's impacting your life or choices this summer, you can on this last day of July especially. Still lots of summer left. But what's it been like for you out there? 788-3205.
As wildfires impact our province, keep up to date with CBC. For the latest information, listen to CBC Radio 1. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba or the CBC News app. For people who have a limited data plan or are running into spotty mobile service on the road, visit cbc.ca/lite. That's cbc.ca/LITE.
If it happened today, find out today. That's the power of having the news in your hand. Get late-breaking news from reporters across the country, straight to your mobile device. Customize your experience with news from your region and what matters to you. Whether it's big headlines, detailed articles, live events, or on-demand video, CBC News has got you covered. Connect to the world. Download the free CBC News app or visit cbcnews.ca.
Still ahead on the show this morning, we're going to talk to the Winnipeg-based Executive Director of the Jewish Heritage Centre of Western Canada about the thoughts and reaction to what has been announced by Prime Minister Mark Carney. Carney says Canada will recognize a Palestinian state in September, but only if certain conditions are met. So we're going to hear more about that. Also more analysis about the world's reaction and the politics of this. That's all coming up after 8 o'clock on the show. Well, ongoing right now, an ongoing conversation that we started yesterday on the program, we heard a story from a Winnipeg woman who says after several behavioral outbursts with other kids on the playground, her 5-year-old son was ultimately diagnosed with ADHD. And she thought things were going well, but then she met with the principal at the end of the school year and was told he will not be welcomed back this fall at this private Catholic school. He was diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder during the year. She wonders if his teachers did all they could to support him. But what is actually needed to help kids with ADHD succeed, whether in private or in public school? When I spoke with the mom yesterday, she shared an example of how her son would be reprimanded while in school. CBC's agreed to withhold her identity to protect her young son.
I had a psychologist who did the diagnosis. She came into the school. She got to observe for an afternoon and witness what went on in the classroom. And the feedback I got back from this professional who specializes in behavior for children was that my son was not the only one with behavior needs. There's multiple kids in there who need help, and that the school is lacking many resources. And that's why your son's struggling, is honestly because of the support that's lacking in the school. The ideal situation would be he could go to a resource room with an EA who could work with him, regulate him, and he gets to join the classroom again. But instead, they don't have that. So his only option is to go stand in the hallway or to go sit in the principal's office. The problem isn't that the child is in trouble for not being able to sit still. You know what I mean? The child's just getting in trouble because the adults in the room don't have the resources or don't care to have the patience to work with the children.
Since CBC aired this story yesterday, just this morning, a second family has reached out to us and said that their child was also expelled from the same school and also lives with ADHD. The mother we spoke to yesterday, her son is 5 years old. Now, according to the province, ADHD is the most common mental health diagnosis in the world. They say 5% of Manitoba kids are being diagnosed with the disorder. So let's look at the resources this morning that are needed to ensure that those children thrive in any school setting. Todd Cunningham is with us from the University of Toronto. He's a professor there. He specializes in academic interventions for children with learning difficulties. He's also a clinical psychologist. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what sense do you make of what you just heard, the concerns from the mother and another family now coming forward saying, you know, the school told them that their kids can't go to school there anymore, and the mom saying that she feels that resources or awareness are lacking?
Yeah, unfortunately, this is a very common problem. In fact, that a lot of educators just don't understand the diversity of students that they have in their classrooms. So students with ADHD, what's the primary issue? The primary issue is what we call sustained attention, my ability to turn on my attention and pay attention to the teacher or the important bit of information around me. And due to their way that their brains are working, they have a harder time turning on that attentional resources in certain situations. One of the challenging things about ADHD is it's really the disorder of stimulation. When the child is doing something that they like to do, then their brains are stimulated. They're into it. They can do it for a long period of time. But when they're called on to do something that they can't, that's not very stimulating to them, not very exciting to their brains, then this is where they're having a harder time being able to attend. And often what we see in those kindergarten grade 1 classrooms is teachers are often asking kids to sit on the carpet for a prolonged period of time and talking to them, teaching them, reading them a story. And this is not grabbing their attention. And so these poor kids are sitting there trying to be good, but suddenly they have to move. Their brains need to be stimulated. And so they often get up, they walk around, they talk, they disturb other kids. But that is them actually trying to stimulate their brain, trying to get their brains to wake up so they can actually do an attention. So the first part is we really have to help educators understand what the problem is, because this educator could have done something like, hey, child, please just walk around the back of the room while I'm reading to you. And because they're moving around, they probably could attend to what the teacher is talking about. Or, hey, here's some Play-Doh. Play with this in your hand as we're talking about this, as I'm reading this story to you. That's probably going to help them be able to attend a little bit better.
I'm going to be a little bit blunt here and maybe too blunt, but I feel like this is a well-researched topic.
It is.
ADHD. Why do you think that gaps persist when it comes to implementing the research on ADHD in schools? Or is this really, because I can probably hear educators screaming at the radio, just about a lack of resources to properly educate and support students?
Well, I think it is a lack of resources in the fact that we're not helping frontline workers actually understand it. We're seeing with ADHD, we see it with learning disability, we see it with autism, that frontline workers just don't know, our teachers just don't know what to do. And they also don't have the other supports to come in to help them develop routines in their classroom or to help them to develop what they need to do in their classrooms to be able to support the students. And in some situations, they don't have the supports there to be able to say, oh, okay, this child, they are becoming overwhelmed in the classroom. They need to go and take a break, going down to the resource room to get some other special supports. We are seeing across Canada kind of a lack of those supports, but a key place is that awareness, really helping educators understand the diverse set of students that are in the classrooms. And unfortunately, we have this expectation that every teacher is going to be an expert in every situation with every type of learner out there. And that's not reasonable. That's why we need more resource people in schools to be able to help teachers so that when they identify a student who has a behavioral need, a learning need, that there could be an expert that can come in, work alongside that teacher so that they can develop a routine, put into a program in place that will help that student be able to thrive within the classroom.
Now, this is not to take away from the specifics of the story that we've been covering, where we're still trying to determine, exactly what led to this. There could be fairness or even discrimination issues, or we're still sort of researching. The school has refused to comment. I want to ask you, why do children with ADHD sometimes act out? Because you talked about sort of the ability to focus. But then there's also other things. There's on one side, you could see a daydreaming aspect, I understand. And on the other side, there could be maybe something that might manifest in some type of even violence.
Yeah, the main hypothesis is that the brain is lacking a chemical dopamine. It's a little bit lower. And so when the brain is called to be able to pull on sustained attention, it needs more dopamine to do that. And so if the brain doesn't have that, it has two options. A, it can go into daydream mode, go, oh, I don't have it, so I'm just kind of going to check out. We often see this higher in our female population, especially at the younger age, and that's why they don't get identified till later on, because they're quiet, they're sitting in the back back of the classroom. They don't disturb anybody, but they're not attending to what's going on. Or B, you have the brain going, oh, I need to turn on the sustained attention. I need to get my brain woken up. I need to do something to stimulate myself. And that's where we see a lot of the external behavior starting to come up. The talking, the moving around, the touching of other people, the grabbing stuff. We see a lot of that happening. The other thing that we see with ADHD is also this impulsivity, that kind of a squeaky brake situation. They act before they are fully done thinking. So we will see a kid grab something out of another child's hand really quickly because they haven't thought this through. Again, this is where good teaching can come in to start to help model and reinforce what are the appropriate rules. What we see in kindergarten and going to grade 1, really, this is the time where we're helping kids to socialize to our education, to our society. And we need teachers to have very clear routines that are provided to the kids. We need to ensure that they are understanding how to reinforce the behaviors that they want and also to shape the behaviors that they don't want. And when you have someone who has ADHD, it adds an extra level of challenge for that educator because they need to be thinking about how am I, again, creating this environment that's going to allow the student to know what I want and what I don't want. And one of the things that teachers can do is start to prompt. They can actually tell a child, hey, I really like that. I like that you sat down on the carpet for 5 seconds and didn't disturb everything. High five. Good job doing that. Hey, I love that you got into line really quickly when I asked you. That's awesome. High five. Great job.
Positive reinforcement. How worried?
Yeah, we just need to reinforce it. Yeah.
How concerning is it, especially, this is one of your areas of expertise, that we have a reality across the country and certainly in Manitoba where teachers are trying to keep up with all kinds of classroom needs and increasing numbers of students and that those kids that need that little bit of extra, even though it may in some cases be a little bit, just might continue to fall through the gaps. And even in these cases, we did a story earlier this year with Inclusion Canada about how kids are being sent home from schools increasingly, and disenrolled and seemingly because the schools can't figure it out. So how at risk are we of how much do we need real reform in our system?
Well, we know that as these students continue to not be in school, this is what we call time off task. They're not part of the learning environment. They're not developing. And as that goes on, it has a cumulative effect. So in grade 1, it's a very small difference between those who have learning challenges and are being kind of kept out of the classroom and those who are not. But over time, that gap keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where the students can't actually engage in education. And that's why we see students who have learning challenges dropping out of high school at a much higher rate, especially starting in grade 10. And that has a long-term impact on their overall quality of life. We know that students who have learning disabilities who don't meet the grade 10 literacy requirements, they're more likely to be unemployed, more likely to be incarcerated, more likely to misuse medication.
So getting in early is important. Yeah. Todd Cunningham, I'm sure we'll speak again. Thank you very much for your time on this subject. That is Todd Cunningham with us live via Zoom this morning on CBC, Associate Professor in the University of Toronto's Ontario Institute for Studies in Education. Heather Wells is here now with our news headlines.
Good morning. Well, Manitoba's Minister for Mining is pushing back against a new survey concluding the mining industry has less confidence in Manitoba than it did a year ago. According to the Fraser Institute, this province ranks 26th among jurisdictions around the world as an attractive place to invest in mining. That is down from 6th last year. A war monument that stood at Portage in Maine is still going to be relocated, even though some posts on social media suggest otherwise. Photos on social media appear to show the monument outdoors beside garbage. The Manitoba Métis Federation says the plan all along is to have that statue moved this fall and put it in a prominent spot in a war cemetery. We'll hear more about those stories and others coming up in our next local news at 8:30.
More local reaction after 8 in the show from Prime Minister Carney saying Canada will recognize a Palestinian state in September if certain conditions are met. We do have a traffic issue here. Dunkirk Fermor northbound median lane blocked due to a collision. Keep right to pass. And know that it's smoky over most of Manitoba. 16 degrees in Winnipeg right now.
Today on Q.
I'm Garvey Bailey, sitting in for Tom Power.
Abraham Rubin is a rock star in the art world.
Inuk artist Abraham Onyek Rubin is one of our country's greatest sculptors. He'll be here to talk about his new exhibit in Winnipeg and how he uses his work to tell the story of his people.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm Catherine Cullen. The countdown is on to Canada hosting the World Cup, but there is growing concern in Vancouver about how details of a contract with FIFA about security around the host stadium will affect businesses and residents. That's coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. U.S. President Donald Trump says he is not happy with Canada's plan to recognize Palestinian statehood, and it could make it more difficult for Canada and the U.S. to reach a trade deal. Canada has until tomorrow to negotiate an agreement, or the U.S. will impose a 35% tariff on all non-CUSMA goods. Let's bring in Janice McGregor from our Washington bureau. And Janice, is this decision to recognize a Palestinian state really what is standing in the way of a trade deal?
Well, let's note right out the gate, Marcia, that European countries, notably France, also the UK, they were out ahead of Canada on Palestinian recognition. And yet Trump hasn't chucked deals reached with them over this issue. Instead, it appears to be his latest play to crank up new kinds of tension and isolate Canada, which, remember, remains the only major trading partner apart from China that has retaliated. It all whiffs of another attempt to negotiate in public, cajole, intimidate, bully. Just yesterday afternoon, Trump was out destabilizing Canada's economic harm calculations by piling on new national security tariffs on copper, changing de minimis rules for the customs duties that are payable on small incoming packages.
There are legal efforts to stop these U.S. tariffs, including a case being heard today at a U.S. federal appeals court. Walk us through the arguments.
There are some Americans who understand their president is massively overstepping his office in his trade strategy. Tariff taxation should fall under the authority of the House. International treaty making is the Senate's job. Congressional authority is undermined when the man at the top rules arbitrarily. 8 court cases so far have been launched to stop this. 2 have now reached the Federal Circuit Court appeal stage, with arguments starting this morning in D.C. Here's the plaintiff in one of them, David Levi. He runs a small business in Charlottesville, Virginia, that makes science kits for kids, but most of the parts for those kits are imported.
It's just very hard to plan a business when the tariffs can change in a few weeks, and it takes months for parts to come in, and it takes a year or more to design a new product, set up the supply chain, and get everything dialed in.
Trump, the businessman, is somehow deaf to these arguments from his own citizens about what tariffs do to their livelihoods. We'll see if the courts and the Constitution can stop what economic arguments, so far anyway, haven't.
Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
Janice McGregor reporting from Washington. South Korea's new trade deal with the United States is proving to be unpopular. Dozens of people are protesting near the U.S. Embassy in Seoul. They say they don't think a 15% tariff on South Korean products is a good deal, even though U.S. President Donald Trump had been threatening 25%. Currently, the United States does not have any blanket tariff on South Korean goods, but the government in Seoul says agreeing to this deal now ensures a stable trading relationship. Hundreds of people in BC's Okanagan region are waiting to find out if they will have to leave their homes, and hundreds more have already been told it's time to get out. A wildfire is burning between Peachland and West Kelowna. As Yasmin Renea reports, it is threatening buildings and major highways.
I'm going to be able to go fight the fire.
Trapped in West Kelowna, local firefighter Brianna Williams hopped on a boat towards Peachland to help put out a fire burning just a few kilometers from the Okanagan city, as she's done in the past.
I was in West Kelowna in 2023, Karamias, and a few other places.
Ground crews, air tankers, and helicopters were all dispatched to fight the current Drought Hill wildfire, which grew 5 times in size within hours. Taylor Coleman is with the BC Wildfire Service.
Thankfully, the air tankers and skimmers that are responding have really helped cool fire behavior and slow the spread.
People living in about 400 properties were ordered to flee their homes yesterday afternoon, among them Rene DeWeron and his family.
Got packed up, started watering the house, watering, surrounding bushes, stuff like that, trying to help knock it down if it comes as close as, we could potentially see.
Hundreds more properties were put on evacuation alert last night, with people being told to be prepared to leave at a moment's notice if needed. Evacuation centers have been set up in Peachland and West Kelowna. The cause of the fire is still under investigation, but videos show a truck burning along the side of a nearby highway. Yasmin Ghanea, CBC News, Vancouver.
Environment Canada is warning wildfire smoke is spreading across much of the country today. There are air quality warnings for Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Western Ontario. And the prairie smoke could blow even farther east to Toronto, Ottawa, and parts of southern Quebec. The CBC News Climate Dashboard is your place to find live updates on wildfire smoke, active fires, and air quality. Go to cbc.ca/climate to check it out. Ukraine's parliament is restoring independence to 2 anti-corruption agencies. It's a reversal of a law that was approved just last week and drew public backlash. It is not normal for Ukrainians to protest while their country is at war, but overnight, protesters rallied near the parliament buildings. They urged politicians to restore the watchdog's power, and it seems they were heard. Today's vote comes as Kyiv residents recover from a brutal overnight airstrike focused on the capital. At least 8 people died, and more than 80 are injured. Crystal Gomansing has the latest.
Standing in front of a smoldering high-rise, Ukrainian Interior Minister Ihor Klimenko says the building was directly hit by a missile. In the search for the dead and missing, rescue teams managed to locate one individual in the rubble. We had just come back to the apartment, back from the bomb shelter, says this resident. The air raid alert had just been cancelled. And then we were doomed. Kyiv was the main location targeted overnight and into this morning. Ukraine's Air Force says the Russian attack consisted of more than 300 drones and 8 cruise missiles.
Hello, everybody.
The attacks are the first since U.S. President Donald Trump said Tuesday he was shortening the ultimatum timeline on Russia from 50 to 10 days. The threat of sanctions, a new move by the U.S. president who has grown increasingly frustrated with Russia over its unwillingness to end the war. In the Ukrainian capital, more air raid sirens blared Thursday morning, and crews probed the ruins of homes. Crystal Gomansing, CBC News, London.
A flight attendant is suing Delta Airlines over that fiery plane crash at Toronto's Pearson Airport in February. The plaintiff says she was severely injured in the incident, and she blames her employer for allegedly cutting corners and assigning an inexperienced pilot. The CBC's Thomas Daigle has our exclusive story.
Oh my God!
After the passenger jet flipped upside down and skidded across the runway, flight attendants scrambled to rush everyone out.
Come on!
One flight attendant who was on that plane but off duty is now suing Delta Airlines and its subsidiary Endeavour Air, alleging they knowingly placed profits over safety, leading to that hard landing that sent 21 people to hospital.
This plane was going in way too fast. That makes them negligent.
Michael Morse is a Michigan-based lawyer working with the plaintiff Vanessa Miles, who filed the lawsuit this week in U.S. federal court.
She was dangling upside down after the crash, soaked in fuel.
The woman says she suffered a broken shoulder and a traumatic brain injury. Her case is one of at least 19 such lawsuits filed against the airlines in connection with the Toronto incident last February. Keith Mackey is a flight safety expert.
In this case, we had a very high rate of descent, which actually snapped the landing gear off the airplane. It's a very unusual circumstance.
Delta hasn't yet responded to the new lawsuit, but says its flight crew was qualified and certified. The Transportation Safety Board is expected next year to release a full report into what went wrong. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Toronto.
You are gonna come to
choose carefully.
You are listening to part of Katy Perry's performance last night in Montreal, and you will never guess who was in the crowd. Okay, you might. Justin Trudeau was there, and it looks like he brought his daughter, Ella Grace. It's more grist for the rumor mill that has been in overdrive this week ever since the former Prime Minister was seen dining with the newly single pop star. And that is World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for tuning into Information Radio and making us part of your Thursday, last day of July. And it's going to be warm out there. Thanks for being here on the show. You are with CBC, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. We'll find out what developing news is happening this morning. In a moment, Heather Wells will join us. This half hour on the program, we continue to get reaction to Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, saying that Canada will recognize a Palestinian state in the fall if certain reforms are made. So earlier this morning, we did hear from Ramsey Zeid, the president of the Canadian Palestinian Association of Manitoba. Live this half hour, we will hear from the executive director of the Jewish Heritage Centre of Western Canada as we locally look at the impact that this could have on members of our community here. Stay tuned. As mentioned, though, let's go to Heather first here. She has stories in the news this morning and developments on many of them. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, a recent string of alleged extortions has business owners and workers in Winnipeg fearing for their safety. Some say they are being threatened with arson and violence if they don't hand over money. Someone broke into Jay Delaney's family business earlier this month. A Molotov cocktail was thrown inside. 2 weeks later, their other business also was set on fire. We'll hear from him coming up. And a new survey by a conservative think tank concludes the mining industry has less confidence in Manitoba now than it did a year ago. We'll hear from our mining minister in our next local news coming up at 8:30.
Thanks, Heather.
You're welcome.
Abby has a forecast.
Heat warning in effect for the powerful influence all the way down to Lynn Lake in the northern part of the province. We're seeing temperatures warm up to 29 today, and that would be the play even into tomorrow. While we have that poor air quality statement still in place, poor visibility, poor air quality will be impacting regions across the province. Winnipeg 16 degrees. It's smoky outside. The sun trying to peek through. Today brings a high of 26 degrees, but it's going to feel like 29 later in the day. Brandon all the way down to Dauphin. We're seeing 16 degrees spread across board. Smoke lingers today. The skies will stay mostly sunny. Highs around 26, while up north we'll see temperatures get to 30 degrees and even warmer than that, with the smoke still affecting that region.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Sierra, there's some developments in traffic.
There has been. I got a call from Michael just while we were in the news there. There's a collision at the St. Anne's and St. Mary's Junction, so a busy intersection there. There's a collision that is bringing northbound St. Mary's down to the only lane open there, so a big collision there. Emergency vehicles are on scene, so be careful going through there, especially when you're passing those emergency vehicles, assisting folks out there, and expect delays, especially if you're going northbound. It sounds like it is very slow, and he mentioned that it was looking very slow. So yes, collision at St. Anne's and the St. Mary's Junction there, busy intersection, and bringing northbound St. Mary's to the only lane open. So things are moving slowly through there. As well, just a reminder, there's been a collision at Dunkirk and Fermor in the northbound median lane. That is blocked, so you want to keep right to pass there. That's a collision blocking the northbound median lane at Dunkirk, and Fermor. Keep right to pass there and use caution. If anything else is popping up or you have any updates on these situations that I just talked about, we still have a little time in the show, and I would love to let your fellow commuters know here. You can give me a call on the CBC commuter line, 204-788-3093.
And so Canada plans, as I mentioned, to recognize a Palestinian state in September. This news developing yesterday, and that is if only certain reforms are made. Here's a bit of Prime Minister Mark Carney.
Canada has long been committed to a two-state solution. An independent, viable, and sovereign Palestinian state living side by side with the state of Israel in peace and security.
The reforms he's talking about that he says must be met for this to happen. The Palestinian Authority must commit to holding an election and other democratic reforms, the election in 2026. Also, Hamas must disarm and play no role in a possible future state of Palestine. We also are getting local reaction to this, in addition to what you may have heard nationally. Ramsey Zeid, president of the Canadian Palestinian Association of Manitoba, says this recognition could mean a lot locally.
We've been trying for years to have the Palestinian flag raised at City Hall, at the legislative building, on different occasions, and we've always got turned down. And the reason was, we can't raise the Palestinian flag because it's not recognized by the federal government. Well, now it's recognized by the federal government, and we're going to raise that flag high. It's going to be a proud, proud day.
That was Ramsey Zeid, president of the Canadian Palestinian Association of Manitoba, in conversation with CBC. Now, the embassy in Israel, to look at world reaction, the embassy of Israel in Canada has released a statement rejecting Canada's endorsement of a Palestinian state. They say, quote, Israel will not bow to distorted campaign of international pressure against it. We will not sacrifice our very existence by permitting the imposition of a jihadist state in our ancestral homeland that seeks our annihilation, end quote. Well, we have another local perspective this morning. Belle Jerneski is with us live. She's executive director of the Jewish Heritage Centre of Western Canada. She is here, of course, in Winnipeg. Good morning, Belle.
Good morning, Marcy.
So what are your thoughts on this when you heard the Prime Minister announcing this, and what are your reflections on it?
Shock. I think that it's a very premature and ill-advised announcement because he's predicating an announcement that will be made in advance of the commitments that he's asked for in 2026. Now, Abbas does not have control over Gaza. When there were elections held, they elected Hamas. I don't think that Abbas would have control over, what Palestine are we talking about? Are we talking about the West Bank and Gaza? Are we talking about just the West Bank? The other thing is that Abbas has proved himself to be unreliable, to follow up on commitments. And even many Palestinians themselves in the West Bank have criticized the Palestinian Authority over its corruption. I'm also very disappointed that this, as I say, this recognition, while Prime Minister Carney speaks of the importance of returning the hostages, he hasn't asked for the hostages to be returned before Canada recognizes a Palestinian state. So all of this is very problematic. You may remember that 24 years ago, in negotiations in Taba in Egypt, Yasser Arafat was offered 97% of the West Bank in return for a peaceful settlement and a two-state solution, and that was rejected. I really don't see how these vague commitments by Abbas will actually result in any kind of real change. But to make this recognition before any of those real changes happen, I think is a huge mistake. And it would seem to me also to reward terrorism. Certainly Israelis and Jews in Canada very much, and for many, many decades, have hoped for a peaceful solution. But that has to happen following negotiation from both parties.
What is the sense of the overall community here in Winnipeg? I'm wondering whether or not the Israeli or Jewish community, by extension, has planned any formal reaction or action because of the news.
I'm not aware of a formal reaction, but just everything that I've heard from everyone that I know, the response has been tremendous disappointment in the Prime Minister's announcement and really shock, not expecting this. This goes against Canadian policy over many, many years. And I cannot imagine another situation where something like this, for another country would be announced. I mean, we are still very much worried about these 50 hostages that remain in Gaza. And I don't see this as a proper response to bringing them back.
How concerned are you about Canada's relationship in the world? I'm just thinking about the response that I just shared from the Embassy of Israel in Canada, and also hearing from the U.S. this morning. They're tying this into trade, saying because of this announcement that this could impact trade deals. But I'm wondering whether or not that's on your radar.
I did read that. One can never really be sure what President Trump means and what he's going to follow up on. But I think that we feel abandoned. I think that Israelis and Jews in the diaspora are feeling very much abandoned by countries who seem to be accepting a situation that is absolutely unacceptable.
Just as a last question, in terms of the reporting that's been coming out of Gaza about the food, about the hunger there, and about obviously the escalating Israeli strikes that continue, and violence continuing. How has that been? Because I know you and I have talked for you to absorb. You and I have talked before about trying to look at this from obviously you look at it from a historical lens. From a human lens, and obviously, your Jewish lens, obviously, with what you do and who you are, but also to look at this through a humanitarian lens, which is what most of the world is now pushing hard for some kind of a solution. How do you square that?
Absolutely. I think that there is a problem, but the problem is who is in control of the distribution of aid. It is a very complicated situation. We know that we've seen photos of aid that is just sitting there. There needs to be better cooperation between agencies and to ensure that this aid goes in safely for distribution, and that Hamas is not looting it and selling it at exorbitant prices to Palestinian civilians. We hear this out of Israel as well, that there is a desire for this war to end. There's a desire for peace, but for that to happen, both sides have to agree to that.
Thank you very much for being with us this morning, Belle. Appreciate your perspective.
Thank you, Marcy.
That is Belle Jarneski with us live today. She's the Executive Director of the Jewish Heritage Center of Western Canada. I do just want to make mention that a comment that Belle made about looting and then food being resold to Palestinians at higher prices, CBC and certainly myself on the spot here can't independently verify. It is 8:22 right now. We're going to continue talking about this with some more analysis. So we mentioned this morning that the reforms, and I'm being careful here because the media has been saying conditions, and I've been told the way the Prime Minister has framed this is that he's asking for reforms. The reforms that Prime Minister Mark Carney is saying that Canada is looking for, should the country recognize a Palestinian state in September, are multifold. So the Palestinian Authority must commit to holding an election, and other democratic reforms are involved in this as well. And let's talk about what those are. So Hamas must disarm and play no role in a future state of Palestine. The announcement from Carney follows similar commitments from France and the UK. And to talk about this in a wider political sense, Rex Brynan is here. He is Professor of Political Science at McGill University. Hi.
Good morning.
So what do you make of the announcement from the Prime Minister and its significance?
Well, Canada has long supported a two-state solution to the Israel-Palestinian conflict. That is to say, a Palestinian state in the West Bank and Gaza alongside the state of Israel, the two of them living in peace and security. That's been the case under both liberal and conservative governments. What's different here is our actual recognition of that Palestinian state. Now, most countries in the world do already recognize that Palestinian state, about 140 do, but it's important when a major Western country like Canada does so. And I think it's occurring now for a variety of reasons, partly having to do with what's going on in Gaza, partly because of a number of extreme measures that the Israeli government has taken, and also, frankly, because the French gave us a little nudge, as did the British, and so we've kind of joined them in recognizing a Palestinian state. So I think it's a valuable position. I think it's the sort of consistent with international law and a good thing that the Canadian government moved in that direction.
The Prime Minister listed a number of conditions to be met before such a recognition by Canada. I was going to ask if you expect these to be met, but reporters already were asking the PM yesterday, how can they possibly be met? Like free democratic elections in 2026, for example. We're already halfway through 2025. His response was, being reasonable about timelines. What's your sense of this?
Well, the Prime Minister was also very careful not to use the word conditions in the press conference. Reporters kept saying conditions, and he kept saying predicated, which is slightly different things. So essentially, what he was saying was we're going to be recognizing in September on the understanding which the Palestine Authority, that is to say the Palestinian Self-Rule Authority in the West Bank, that President Abbas of the Palestine Authority has told us that he supports reform and he supports elections. So given those assurances, we'll be moving forward. Now, the Palestinian elections would occur next year if they occurred, so after we've recognized the state of Palestine. Mahmoud Abbas, the president of the Palestine Authority, has not been enthusiastic about them because his party would lose. But equally, the big obstacle there is really Israel. I can't imagine that Israel will allow the Palestinians to have elections because the current Israeli government does not want to see a successful Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, and certainly not one that enjoys a new democratic mandate. So the real constraint on the elections is probably going to be what the Israelis do, less what the Palestinians try to do. So the rest of the things the Prime Minister said were all aspirational, things we would like to see happen, but I don't think in any way conditioned our recognition of Palestine. Now,
listeners just heard a conversation with the executive director of the Heritage Center, Jewish Heritage Center of Western Canada, she's based here in Winnipeg. But they also would have heard earlier in the morning the president of the Canadian Palestinian Association, Manitoba, so reacting to all of this. What he said, that is Ramsey Zeid, the latter, was that he will feel now that he can approach City Hall and to, for example, raise the Palestinian flag, something that here has not happened because they said we're waiting to see what the federal government will do. So there will be on-the-ground changes and significance that we'll see in our communities.
Maybe a little. I mean, the state of Palestine is already a member of the UN General Assembly. Most countries around the world already recognize the state of Palestine. About over 140 already did. So, I wouldn't want to overstate its importance. And of course, no state of Palestine actually exists on the ground because the West Bank and Gaza are subject to Israeli occupation. There will obviously be partisans who might, strongly decry this move, but I think most Canadians will see it as a fairly sensible thing to do, that is simply doubling down on our historic support for a two-state solution.
And what do you say to those who are uncomfortable with the stance from the Canadian government to look at the other perspective?
Well, there's sort of two criticisms. One is that it's premature because the borders haven't been demarcated, and the second is that it's somehow supporting Hamas. Now, to deal with the latter first, it's a kind of nonsensical position because we're not endorsing the Hamas position. We're in fact endorsing the position of Hamas's bitter political opponents. We're endorsing the position of Palestinian moderates, of Palestinians who are committed to peacefully negotiating with Israel and living in peace with Israel. So what our move is doing is rewarding the moderates, and it's saying to the extremists, Hamas, but also to extremists in the Israeli government who explicitly support permanent occupation of Palestinian territories, we're saying we don't really think that your actions are unacceptable. So this is really a giant endorsement of moderation by the Canadian government. On the borders issue, it's true. We're recognizing a Palestinian state that doesn't really exist on the ground, doesn't have defined borders, but that's not unusual. We had diplomatic relations with Ireland for decades before the issue of Ireland's borders were fully resolved in the Good Friday Agreement. For many years, the Irish Constitution laid claim to Northern Ireland. So, we have full diplomatic relations with lots of countries whose border situation isn't fully worked out. So that's not necessarily unique either. So I would reassure people that this is really just a doubling down on a Canadian policy that is longstanding, that both Israelis and Palestinians have rights to self-determination, should not be under occupation, should not be subject to threats of violence, should have opportunities to live in peace and security side by side. That's what the Canadian government is doubling down on, and I think that that's a very reasonable and moderate position.
We'll leave it there this morning. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's Rex Brynan, Professor of Political Science at McGill University. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for being with us here on Information Radio, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. We had an issue at Dunkirk and Fermor. Still might be an issue there. Northbound median lane blocked because of a collision. People have been keeping right to pass. If you've got any updates, I know it's late, but you can let us know on the CBC traffic line. Your local news is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, it's 16 degrees. Widespread smoke as we wrap up the month of July. 26, which is a seasonal temperature for this last day of July. But it will feel warmer. Humidex at 29 today. A recent string of alleged extortions has business owners and workers in Winnipeg fearing for their safety. Some say they're being threatened with arson and violence if they don't hand over money. Someone broke into Jay Delaney's family business earlier this month. A Molotov cocktail was thrown inside Tita's Thai restaurant. 2 weeks later, their other business was also set on fire. Delaney has heard from about 10 other businesses who say they're being threatened with arson and violence if they don't pay up.
Knowing how that feels, if we can just stop them from doing the next one, at least someone else doesn't have to go through that.
Delaney feels the police response has been slow. Winnipeg police say they can't speak to any connections between incidents because investigations are ongoing, and they urge anyone being threatened to contact them. Meanwhile, some of the targets have left the city because they no longer feel safe. The Government of Canada, as we've been telling you this morning, plans to recognize Palestine as a state. Prime Minister Mark Carney says Canada will recognize the Palestinian state at the UN General Assembly in September if the Palestinian Authority commits to democratic reforms. Carney adds Palestine must hold elections in 2026. Ramsey Zeid at the Canadian Palestinian Association of Manitoba says his community's been waiting to hear this for a long time.
The recognition of a Palestinian state, legitimizes what we've been working for and we've been fighting for years.
All of this sparking a major new development in trade talks between Canada and the U.S. President Trump posting on his Truth Social account, Canada has just announced it's backing statehood for Palestine. That will make it very hard for us to make a trade deal with them. Morgan's Warriors is reflecting on 1 year of helping vulnerable women in Winnipeg and is calling for more safe spaces for women. The group was created a year ago during the trial of convicted serial killer Jeremy Skibitsky, who killed Morgan Harris. The group's founder, Melissa Robinson, says a core group of 12 volunteers have been fanning out looking for missing women and helping those who are in difficulty.
We've come across very vulnerable women in very dangerous situations quite late at nighttime. And, we've been able to remove them from the streets to protect them. And I always think to myself, and I always thank our group all the time, we are always in the right place at the right time.
Robinson wants to see more women-only shelters in the city to give women a safe place to go. The Manitoba Métis Federation says a monument to World War I soldiers will be displayed prominently once again. It's something that appears to be at odds with a photo circulating on social media. It seems to show the monument at an outdoor property beside garbage. The MMF says the statue isn't in a junkyard like it may seem, but in a storage facility. The MMF's Kat Petnode says the statue is usually wrapped in protective coverings, but not in the photo.
We understand it was temporarily unwrapped as part of an exercise within that storage facility just to move things around and make sure that it continued to be secure.
The statue stood at Portage in Maine for more than a century, but it was moved last year because of construction. It's scheduled to be relocated this fall to the Field of Honor at Brookside Cemetery. A new survey concludes the mining industry has less confidence in Manitoba than it did a year ago. According to the Fraser Institute, this province ranks 26th among jurisdictions around the world as an attractive place to invest in mining. That is down from 6th spot last year. Jamie Moses, the Manitoba Minister for Mining, believes this province is actually more attractive to mining.
What I think right now is that we've shown significant steps of how we're getting better and how we're working with industry better. I think you would hear that if you talk to some of our industry partners.
Manitoba has only 4 active mines at Thompson, Snow Lake, Burnock Lake, and Russell. A 5th is under construction east of Lynn Lake. Road signs saying Bubba sucks at fishing have been cropping up outside Morden over the past year. Steve Bubba Peters is the target of the running joke, although he isn't sure which of his friends is responsible.
My dad told me years ago, the easiest person to make fun of is yourself. If you can't laugh at yourself, like, you're missing out on life. So, I mean, there's a lot of things I could be upset about, and I could be like, why me? This isn't fair. You know, it's much easier to smile and laugh about it than it is to be upset about it.
And to turn it into something positive. Peters is using his new notoriety to raise money on social media, and by selling Bubba Sucks t-shirts, he spent the money and some of his own on free fishing gear for local kids, and he plans to hand out rods and reels at the Winkler Harvest Festival next weekend. You can find the news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
His name's perfect for it too, right? Like, just for the story, like Bubba Sucks.
I know.
Yeah, I know. It's just everything about it, especially
it's like Bubba Gump. Remember that old movie, Forrest Gump? Yeah.
Yes,
Bubba Sucks, though. Yeah, I want a t-shirt.
Don't we all? All right, thanks, Heather.
You're welcome.
Well, have a listen. If this brings you peace, joy, and questions about what types of varieties of birds you're listening to, then you want to take part in the call-in. That's on noon today between 12:30 and 1. Sierra.
One last look at traffic here. The collision at the St. Anne's and St. Mary's Junction is still there. The northbound median lane on St. Mary's is the only lane open, and emergency vehicles are on scene there, but be careful if you're passing through there, and expect delays if you are going northbound. And again, there's been a collision at Dunkirk and Fermor that's been blocking the northbound median lane. Keep right to pass there.
Abby, quick weather?
The north will be warming up close to 30 degrees, while the south will see 26 to 27 degrees with smoke.
Well, thanks to our live team, Abby, Sierra, Ezeka. You guys are the best. Big thanks to our news department, Heather, Aaron, and Megan out there, and our CA reporter, Jim Agapito, and Sid Sundance Horshig and Chidi Akuma, who worked on items in our show today. Take care, be well, everybody. We'll talk to you again tomorrow on CBC.
Canada intends to recognize the state of Palestine at the 80th session of the United